Welcome you to our regular council meeting for June 17th. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We have all members of council present this evening. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of the First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi people, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able, please stand for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Closed meeting report this evening. Any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council tonight? Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder that we adopt the published agenda with an amendment to allow Laura Danier to present along with item 8.2 with Chittell Sports Academy. Moved by Deputy Mayor, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting for June 3rd, needing a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the regular council meeting of June 3rd be adopted as circulated. Councillor Guerin, Deputy Mayor Shepley, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Special council meeting minutes for April 29th on ELK Director Remuneration, that the minutes of the special council meeting held April 29th be adopted as circulating, needing a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Special council meeting minutes for April 29th on heritage designation process, needing a mover and a seconder for those. Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. So on behalf of the town of Essex, I would like to congratulate our 2024 Ontario Senior of the Year, Teresa Slack, who is here with us tonight. You want to give a wave? The Ontario Senior of the Year Award gives each municipality in Ontario the opportunity to honor one outstanding local Ontarian who is the age of 65 and older that is enriched social, cultural, or civic life in their community. This year's recipient could not be more deserving. Teresa's selflessness and dedication has touched the hearts of many in her community. She has graciously opened her home to 3 sets of refugees from Ukraine, providing them with shelter, support, and love as they rebuild their lives. She has ensured that they have everything they needed, from financial support to helping them obtain essential documents. Teresa has made sacrifices to support these individuals and have dedicated her time in providing them with a new beginning following the tragic events that they've endured in their past. Her generosity extends further, and I can attest to this because she's always dropping stuff off at my house, as she is a dedicated supporter of the Harrow Food Bank, Wings Rehab, and various local groups. Teresa never seeks recognition. She is quiet and selfless, and she drives by acts of love for the community. Teresa, your compassion and dedication to helping others have inspired us. You have made a profound difference in the lives of many. and we are incredibly grateful for your contributions. So on behalf of our entire community, we want to thank you for everything you do. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Teresa Slack, our 2024 Senior of the Year. So Teresa will just go out in the hall and I'll present you with this certificate and we'll take a picture. And some of her family is here with her. Teresa's family, raise your hand. Woo! And Teresa has also been a great role model for her family, and they're all doing great things for her as well. Okay. Okay. Next, we have our delegation, Patrick Chittle from Chittle Sports Academy, along with Laura. So Laura and Pat, you get to go back there to the delegation stand. You get 10 minutes, push your mic on, and you get 10 minutes.
Hello, my name is Pat Chittle of Chittle Sports Academy. Your worship, counselors, administration, and community members. I thank you for this opportunity and your consideration and support of my expansion of the current lease at the Essex Center Sports Complex. I apologize in advance, and in the essence of time, I'll be quickly reading through my key points, assuming that you've reviewed the proposal in details within it, but to fit everything in the short allotted time. Is this good for the town, and is this good for the community? I can confidently answer yes. The request is to reclaim the previously approved and used space, as well as 2 additional rooms, in which you'll see an amazing first-class space with exceptional programs and services to community members, as well as some new, exciting technology and uniqueness that is new to Essex. Chittle Sports Academy has a respectable reputation and history of operating in Essex since 2006, and has successfully and continuously held a lease in the town in good standing order since 2012, providing health, fitness, and sports services to area members for nearly 20 years. I hope that by the end of this presentation, you will trust and see the genuine passion and benefits that this brings to the town and the community members. Yes, there are risks and concerns with any venture. Regarding insurance and liability, we have and will continue to provide the required coverage to ensure that the town and community members are fully protected. As you may already be aware, the agreement does not permit subletting. As well, there has been transparency and communication with the town and parties throughout the process, specifically as it relates to Chittle Sports Academy not subletting space, as well as the strategic partnership with Define Fitness, of which only enhances the experience and provides and complements services to our members, similar to existing partnerships with supplemental goalie, nutritionalists, concussion specialists, and other strategic partners. As it relates to Any shared space concerns, we have cooperatively worked with all user groups without any issues for the past 12 years. Essex Minor Hockey, Essex Thunder, which have minimal access requirements in the shared space, as well as with the Fun Fest, which is an annual event which also requires minimal access, of which we've had no prior issues and will continue to accommodate the requirements of those shared spaces with those user groups. As it relates to the 73s, the Chittles have a deep family history with the club, and me as a player for 4 years, as well as a coach for 4 years. I have full intention and commitment to work with the 73s for game day, special event activities, throughway access, as previously done for many years without issue, which is also explicitly called out in the proposal. I'm confident that the 73s will see an exceptional space filled with equipment that any elite club would desire, as well as strengthen an already successful organization. Which leads me to the benefits of the proposal, which I feel undoubtedly answers yes to the question of, is this good for the town and good for the community? Approving this proposal brings a forecasted $30,000 to $40,000 of revenue to the town per year. Addition of tens of thousands of dollars in facility leasehold enhancements at no cost to the town or taxpayers. Adds over 2,000 hours of health, wellness, sports activities and programs and opportunities per year to hundreds of community members of all ages. It develops our local youth athletes across multiple sports, develops our area teams and improves our competitive edge, as well as positive revenue in effect on other local businesses. It fills a gap from a recently closed fitness facility. It increases community support, sponsorship, bursaries, donations, financial assistance to families in youth sports, equipment swaps, donations, student co-ops, volunteer, and employment opportunities. And in addition to the state-of-the-art equipment and services and some unique offerings not yet available to Essex. We're excited to continue our sports, health, and fitness passion while growing and re-energizing a plan filled with exceptional programs and top quality experience, in hopes that you too see the passion that exists and many positives that this brings to the community. This concludes my presentation, Your Worship, and I welcome you, the opportunity, and councilors to ask questions that you might have. Thank you.
Want to add anything? Okay. Councilor Ribby?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. So thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate how, you included a lot of things. I'm just learning right now that there's a number of councillors that aren't fully aware of the service you've been providing to this community since 2006. You may not recognize me, but we met back in I think 2017 or so. My grandson took your skills class. And I want to say what you provide for the youth in this community, it's always been I don't know, for me, it's just been quiet, but it's so needed. Okay, so not all young people, everybody knows I like to advocate for things for our youth to have more things in this community, because we always hear how there's not enough. Not everybody wants to take gymnastics, and not everybody wants to go to piano classes. What this service provides for these young people is entirely unique. It helps them build their skills, but it also gives them confidence and knowledge. I've seen a number of young people take a few weeks with his program and decide to stay on in the hockey league, in our local hockey leagues, because they gain the confidence and the knowledge to get out on the ice and compete where they didn't feel like they could. I know I watched it happen for my grandson and a whole lot of young people in my youth group. But like I say, youth groups and gymnastics aren't for everybody. And this is a unique service that you offer to young people. I thought this was great. I saw the gym idea and I thought win-win for all the obvious reasons. And today I'm hearing that there's a little pushback against possibly against renewing your lease. I know there was a time where in 2018 you moved a little bit of the off ice, which I got to see services to on ice. And I thought that's great because you were generating revenue for ice time, even at a discounted rate, which I think is great because I want young people on the ice. You were getting ice time for young people, building their skating, and it was renting the ice at times that we were just gonna get, like, so $0 in rental fees is a lot better, or, some of the fee is a lot better than zero, because I understand from my questioning on a lot of times that the ice wouldn't have been rented anyway. Now I'm ranting. I just wanted to say that I thought this was win-win. I thought I could see the numbers. The rent has always, of course, like any business, it's fluctuated but you've always generated leasing fees through the rent and through the ice rentals that come back into the town coffers and pay for operating expenses at our facilities. That's a win for our taxpayers as well as the young people that are benefiting from the services. There was one possible negative concern I heard, and it was from a resident questioning about fire using the halls, and I was able to have Director Morissette and staff confirm that fire and building were all on. There was no problem with the code or safety. And as far as partnering, I'm so anxious to hear about this, because truthfully, every time there's a new business to this town, it's a win for every single buddy. And to have a new gym, we know we just lost one, but this gym sounds like it's going to offer services that are a little unique, geared to athletes and others, and more individual training. And to be honest, whenever there's more businesses that are offering the same services or a little different services than at different price points, I think that's a win-win too. So I was really happy to see this come forward. I didn't realize it was going to be more than checking the box. Like, of course, the town wants to support a business that continues to provide this excellent service for our young people in the community. So I guess my question to you is, then if by some way the town did not choose to renew your lease and reinstate your ability to put all that wonderful training in the hall, because I got to witness all that hall training. I'm excited that you're putting that back in. If by some chance town chose not to renew that, could you see yourself continuing to operate this business, this service for our community at somewhere within our town limits if we were unable to renew?
And Councillor Verbeek, of course, we would want to continue our passion. There would be challenges with that, but that is potential. But part of being at the arena, of course, being hockey centric is one of our key things, and being close to tennis courts and baseball diamonds, soccer fields, proximity and location is important for what we do, and as well as being close to the ice is really a really important part of the equation for this proposal.
Okay, thank you. I guess I had one more question. This one's for Director Morissette. Today this came up, and I see that there's a little concern because the Skills Academy is getting some ice rental discounts. Are we losing potential renters at that? Like, is there some revenue being lost by this procedure?
Through you, Mayor Bonnie. So the ice time primarily that's being rented by Children's Sports Academy is the non-prime ice time, which means that during our prime time hours, we're nearly full capacity. So during previous and current community service master plan initiatives, we're really looking to build up our facility utilization. So we're looking at ways that we can draw additional revenues and bring in people to use those ice times during their off-peak times. So they're kind of considered your non-desirable times. So we have the only competitors that would be per se looking for similar ice times that he would be booking would be the high school. But there's never been an issue necessarily to get everybody the needs in working with Patty and the high schools, they've always been flexible working with her to make sure that the capacities are met.
Questions to this delegate? Counselor Hammond? Let's go, okay, Counselor McGuire, please.
Thank you through the chair. So I agree on some of the points that Councillor Verbeek is saying that the Chittle Academy is a good fit for Essex. When you add in defined fitness, to me, that's not a good fit, especially at a reduced rate of $4 and something cents a square foot for rental space. And you're asking us to approve half of that. And the report has come back at $4 and some change for rental space, but you are looking for a discount on that as well. I have an issue with bringing in another gym. We have some gym owners here, bringing in another gym at a very, very reduced rate when in Ward 1, gym space on the low goes for $16.50 per square foot. So offering you the space at $4.50, let's say, a square foot, seems very unfair, and it feels like the town is giving you an opportunity and a step up above every other competitor that you have in the area, and I don't think that's fair. You talked about reclaiming space. What can you define reclaiming space? When was the last time you operated in the hallway?
And Councillor McGuire Blaze. So the request for a discounted rate, I don't know that that's a new request. That's the rate with the appropriate CPI increase that I've been at since 2012. So I'm not asking for any additional discount. This is the rate. Part of the reason the rate is what it is because it's not a premium space. It's a shared space with others that have access, with rooms that have 5-foot ceilings, that have throughways, so there's other reasons why the rate is what it is. I'm not proposing any discounts aside from what it has been since 2012 with the increase of the CPI.
Question to you was, you talked about reclaiming space. Can you confirm what you mean? And when was the last time you used the hallway? That was my question.
Yes, sorry. The lease rate piece. As far as use of the hallway, I believe that was back whenever the lease was active. So in 2012 until I believe it was 2018. I believe that's the right time in which, so the request or proposal is to reclaim that existing space in which we previously had approved, as well as operated in that space with the addition of two small rooms.
Through the chair, what is confusing, I think, to some members on council is that you aren't actually, we keep talking about renewing your lease. We're not renewing the lease of the hallway. We're renewing the lease of your storage facilities because you haven't used the hallway since 2018. Is that correct?
I would say that there was special use case permitted to use a portion of the hallway to operate for the past, since 2012 and since the reduction of space in 2018. A very small portion of the hallway.
Chair, so I have two more questions. One, what is the cost of service? So what is the cost of one of your camps or however you do it? And two, how many students do you currently service in the town of Essex at this facility?
So Your Worship and Councillor McGuire Blaze, the cost of service varies. Of course, we are operating at a different level now than we are expecting to operate. So we offer various services that vary in cost depending on length of memberships, the programs, the specifics. So that ranges anywhere from $20 to $100, depending on for a class or a camp or on ice training, off ice training. Like as in clients.
Just like to remind you to go through the chair and to put your mic on as well, because people. Okay. Yes, I'm still going to ask you to go through the chair and put your mic on.
So clients right now are low because we've been minimal, operating minimal. I would say 50 to 100 clients.
Out of that space, 50 to 100 clients out of that space?
Yes. So we do on ice training, which includes clients of many, off ice training, which includes many clients. So depending on length of membership, if it's a one-time participant who attends one class with that, and they don't come back for 3 months, or they don't come back for 9 months, or in the off season. So that membership count is very fluid and fluctuates based on programs, based on initiatives.
And then you are partnering with Defined Fitness, and Defined Fitness is supposed to be, enhance your memberships. How come we're seeing memberships for Defined Fitness and then memberships for Chittle? How come there's two different membership if it's just to enhance the hockey aspect?
Your worship and Councillor McGuire Blaze. So similar to other partnerships with goalie instructor, who they run their own business and they come in to complement our business. Some programs are offered as at Chill Sports Academy. They have their own members, we have our own. Some subcontracting happens where they come in like a concussion specialist who comes in and augments a program or enhances a package that we already have that's also offered to our own members as well as theirs. So it's a strategic partnership that we.
So most of your members, I am assuming, are young hockey players who are looking, high school students, young college students who are looking to do this. But Defined Fitness only offers services between 5:30 a.m. to roughly 10 o'clock a.m. where most students can't participate in the classes. It looks like they have about one class a day that's after school hours. So how are those classes enhancing yours? Because to me, it looks like it's just another gym coming in at a very, very reduced rate. So can you explain how that works?
Your worship and Councillor McGuire Blaze. Yes. So when Chill Sports Academy was operating in the hall and in the space, we were offering men's classes, women's classes, youth classes, morning classes, evening classes. We were offering all types of services to all ages. So this is helping facilitate and increase that experience to all those members.
You said that you're subcontracting. What's the difference? Maybe Director Malindrukalo can give me the definition between subcontracting and subletting, because his lease says not subletting, but he's defining it as a subcontract. Thanks.
I don't know if you want to get into this now, or do you want to get into it when Director Morissette brings his report on the lease? Because that way we could talk about the lease and what's in it and how that all works. Because I'm going to explain it to you as he introduces his lease.
Okay, through the chair, that's acceptable. Thanks.
And then I have Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, I'll try to keep it short. Pat and I know each other. We're friends, and I have no issue with the business or even the business model per se. I have no issues with administration trying to generate additional revenues. Where I have a problem with is the space, and I have problems with the rate. I have some issues of what a full-time business will look like down there. I know when Chittle used to run full with the hallway, it was more of a part-time basis. He had a daytime job and he did it. It was all good, but it was on a part-time basis. I'm just wondering the impact it's going to have on others that are sharing that space if it becomes a full-time a gig. There's also other groups within there that's come to our attention and we know of that need additional space. We have one that's going to be coming before us after this delegate to speak about their need for space. So those are some of my concerns. I'll wait on some of the other stuff once I hear administration talk to the report. I will echo with what Councilor McGuire Blades was saying with respect to the lease. There is some talk in language within the report that it's a current lease, an existing lease, or some sort of an ongoing lease with respect to the hallway, it seems, but there really isn't at this point in time. It is the 2 rooms that is in there. And Pat conducts his business on ice and stuff, and he does the ball hockey stuff. And the hallway's there. He uses it no differently than other groups would use that hallway periodically. But once you have a full-time business in there, those other groups will not be able to benefit to have that same benefit. So a couple of questions I'll ask right now. I'll ask of Pat is just, what is the intended hours of operation? How many days a week? How many hours a day? What would those hours look like, including with the Defined Fitness?
Your worship and Councillor Guerin, thank you. Hours of operation, of course, will vary. This is a growing, fluid venture in which we want to query our user groups and figure out what's working, what's not working, maybe the morning classes. That's going to flex as we navigate this this venture. But of course, mornings are an opportunity, especially for ice time, right? That's hard to get. So as well as rooms, people before work in school. Of course, in school for students is difficult, but high school students are done earlier. So the hours of operations will be flexible. As well, if I may answer a piece about the rate, is that acceptable? In the shared space, of course, we're going to take a hit on revenue and blacking out dates and blacking out time to support 73's times, any other user groups times where we need to know that it's the Fun Fest. So we wouldn't typically operate for certain events in which there's a loss of revenue that we feel is part of the reason for the rate being what it is in that shared access.
So based on that, it sounds like if you can, and all the stars aligned and the business got off really good and you got good memberships, this could be something, like I was saying, I'm speaking to full-time. We're talking mornings, maybe even some afternoons. For sure, when your time's done at work, helping out after hours with what you used to do. So I see that being like all hours of the day, pretty much. That's all I wanted to ask. So the next one is to administration. I was wondering, there was some talk about the fire and that. What is going to be based on what he's asking for and the space he's asking for, what is going to be the capacity?
I'm wondering if we can leave that to the administrative report and just do the delegates, if that's okay.
Is that, oh yeah, sure.
Just, okay. Questions specifically to the delegate that is at the podium right now. Deputy Mayor Shepley?
Madam Mayor, through you. So I'm just wondering, which might be administration that will have to answer that question, but I'm just wondering what your square footage was when you originally started, and then I know you reduced it. I don't know if you know that square footage amount that when you first originally
Councillor Shepley, from the original lease in 2012,
Yes.
I believe that was approximately 2,000 square feet, I think. And then what we're proposing, I should know this quickly, but I think it's around 2,500.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, I couldn't find the original in our report, so I was hoping somebody would have that, so it gives us a reference. So when you're talking about the partnership, I guess the hard part for a lot of us sitting around here is we've seen advertisements from Defined Fitness to come join our new gym. Before this was ever done, it's caused a lot of commotion, we'll say that at the minimum. So having said that, when you talked about your goalie and concussion, different groups that come in and work with you, when they do that, they're in and out, they're usually not there on a full-time basis, correct? Like they would be like a 2-week or 3-week or maybe even a month?
Shepley, yes, especially right now, that's very, very minimal. But when we're operating, or when we were operating at full capacity, that was regular scheduled programs and activities. And of course, Defined Fitness helping more with the fitness side of things, and us a little bit more on the sports side of things. That's why I think the perception is is maybe imbalanced or just different. But as well, I'd like to say that, yes, perhaps we jumped the gun on some things for,
Right.
which of course created unnecessary.
So further to that question then, will the memberships be sold through Chill Sports Academy? Or are they going to be sold through Define Fitness? Because there's a very confusing element out there right now as to who's renting the facility out and who's actually using the space and how that memberships are going to be paid. I just wonder if you could clear that up.
Your worship and Councillor Shepley. Yes, so there is existing Chill Sports Academy members, existing Define Fitness members. There is a cross-pollination that services are enhanced for, bless you, enhanced for both, as well as, so it's a little bit tough to navigate that, but we're blending that in a way that members that belong to Chill Sports Academy or that belong to either one can benefit from both.
I understand that and I appreciate the explanation. I just, for me, having run a business, if I partnership with a business, and I'm on a lease. So I actually currently lease town space. My understanding is I can't have another group come in and run a restaurant in the morning when I'm not operating, and then I take over in the afternoon. So that's where I struggle from it. I don't know that it's necessarily a partnership. It feels like it's two businesses using the same space. As much as I understand what you're saying, it does feel it feels that way. And sometimes if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it just might be a duck. So that's the hard part for a lot of us, or at least for myself. I shouldn't speak for anyone else. That was a real hard part for me right now. Thanks.
Time, I'd like a motion to receive the delegation, and that Councillor Guerin, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor. That's carried. You're welcome to sit down, and we will go to our next delegation. Mr. Chris Wojnarowski. I can't pronounce your name. Can you say it, Councillor Guerin? Okay, from the Essex 73s. Welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes. Chris W.
You can go by Chris. Chris is fine. And you can blame my father for that name. So thank you for your time, through the chair and councillors. The one disappointment that we had we just heard about this a few days ago. And the disappointing part on user groups in general would be that we weren't approached prior to this coming down. Over time, we have asked for and looked for extra space, and we still do need extra space. And we weren't given that opportunity to maybe to discuss the matter. So that sort of it doesn't sit that great with. I also have to talk to the user group. I have to wonder if they were even approached, Our needs on game nights are such that we need access through that hallway, probably a good 4-foot gap, stuff up to the fan surface. We do have a bar up there, and we have equipment that we bring up there. So we need that accessibility. Also, traditionally, we've also acknowledged several groups who have achieved something in town. Minor hockey, baseball, high school, and we bring them in through that hallway. They park there, and we get them ready, and then they go on the ice, and that includes the Legion as well when they bring their flags on Remembrance Day. So we're not opposed to the fact that we don't want to be somehow stopped from being able to do our end of it. We need, on Tuesday nights is our game night. Our schedule can be very flexible when it comes to playoffs, because it's a 7-game series. There are 6 series, and you've got to get 7 games in within 2 weeks. So we need flexibility there as well. and actually this year on it, we're going to have a game on a Friday night when we're going to introduce some more people to our Wall of Fame. Also, we practice Thursday nights and Sunday afternoons. Now, while this has been emptied, and prior to that too, we always had the opportunity for our guys to go out there before games and warm up. We don't have a separate hallway to go somewhere. We don't go up into the stands because there's walkers there. So obviously we cannot infiltrate onto that. So we have to leave that alone. So basically what we're looking for, we want assurance that we're going to be able to get through on game nights and when we need to, and not be stopped again. Plus, we would like to negotiate an extra bit of space in that hallway. So these are the things that really concern us. Anybody who doesn't know me, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Chris Wojnarowski. I'm the Vice President of the Threes. Proud to be with them for 32 years and four Ontario, all Ontario championships. So anyway, so I thank you for your councillors and your worship. And I guess I'm open to questions now.
Thank you. Okay, stay there. My question is, can we have a practice or an exhibition game at the Harrow Arena? You don't have to answer it now, but it would help making the municipality one, right? Questions or comments from Councilman Deputy Mayor Shepley?
Just out of curiosity, Mr. Warnowski, I think I said it right.
No, it's Wojnarowski.
Okay.
No,
If you had
it's
the
okay.
opportunity and had your user group had the opportunity to compete for the space, you would have submitted a request then?
We would have submitted some form of a request, absolutely, yeah. Because we are constantly in need of space.
Okay.
We seem to we grow in, and I guess because of our popularity and the fan base that keeps coming in our arena, we average in. Everybody around is jealous of us. There's 62 teams that hate us in the province of Ontario because we'll put 500-600 people in on Tuesday night in that rink.
Wow.
So we're constantly growing and constantly needing more space.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And one thing I will say, you took time to show me through the 73s area. I think it's important to note maybe on our next council walk through when we go through some of our facilities, it would be important that we maybe try to add that to our walkthrough. It was pretty impressive to see the room there that you guys have set up. It was really nice. Thank you.
I'll be more than happy to do that.
Other members of council to the delegate? Looking for a motion that we receive Chris from the 73s. Councillor McGuire Blaze, Councillor Verbeek, all in favor? Okay, that's carried. Hang around here, Chris, in case we want to ask you something else. We'll go to reports from administration. 10.1, lease agreement with Chiddle Sports Academy, and we'll go to Director Morissette.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and through you to council. Good evening. Administration is presenting for council's consideration an extension of the lease agreement with Chiddle Sports Academy. Chiddle Sports Academy currently holds a lease agreement with the town of Essex and has done so since 2012 in different capacities. In 2012 to 2018, Chiddle Sports leased storage rooms as well as the hallway area for sports-specific training. In 2018, Chiddle Sports focused more toward on-ice training rather than off-ice training and reduced their footprint of the lease area to only the storage rooms. The lease was renewed in 2021 and is set to expire this summer. Chiddle Sports approached administration to renew the lease with the existing rooms while expanding the footprint to bring back the off-ice training. So they did request a number of extra rooms that once administration did look at our own needs, we weren't able to accommodate their request in its entirety. Administration looked at previous agreements and worked with the fire and building teams to determine if the proposal that Chiddle Sports Academy provided would be permitted. Chiddle Sports is looking to add a wall with a door at the end of the hallway outside of the Essex 73's dressing room to prevent unauthorized access and safety to the 73's players and staff. This wall would be a block wall and go from the floor to the ceiling around the cabling and utility lines So there would be no gap. Chittle Sports has also agreed that certain authorized parties will be permitted to go through this gym area to transport materials for storage. The added storage rooms within the lease are currently used by the town of Essex, but 2 of the rooms are used for file storage. The town of Essex, in the 2022 budget, funded to convert a room at the Maydell Community Center to a file storage room. The team at the Essex Center Sports Complex consolidated their files and can relocate them to the Maydell Community Center storage room without a negative impact to their own operation. This will open up these 2 rooms for use by CSA and will also allow further revenues to be generated for the operating budget of the arena. So a number of council members did mention that they haven't personally seen the space. So if we can queue up the video, please. I did take a video of the space so that everybody is aware of what it looks like. So this was taken this afternoon. So I can talk about this picture first while it's here. So this is what the storage rooms look like. So you can see that there's certainly height restrictions. This room would be cleared out. Those are shelves that are removable. But that's just an example of what the ceiling heights look like. So it's not, when we say that there's, for instance, 200 square feet, there is 200 square feet, but it's not the full entire height of the ceiling. So this is what we mean by undesirable space. You can show the video, please. So this is coming in from the lobby area, and then it would go into Chittle Sports area. So you can see it's a wraparound hallway design, not necessarily one straight line throughout. So this is one of the storage rooms that Chittle Sports Academy is currently using. So he does have some units stored in the hallway currently. And this would be a similar design to what they're looking for with the bikes along the sides. So you're still maintaining full clear access as a fire route. No obstruction of exits, and going down towards the end of the hallway. So this is approximately where that wall would be going. And similar to the end wall, where all of the cabling and utilities go through that wall, it's similar to what would be happening with this concrete wall. And if you can queue up the PDF document as well. And go to page 8. So this is the map of the proposed area that Chittle Sports Academy is looking for. So over the past few days, some great questions were asked to administration, and happy to clarify some of those questions. So the first question was, why is Defined Family Fitness operating out of the Shaheen Room? So Defined Family Fitness asked to operate out of the hallway as early as June 1st. Administration said they were not able to operate out of there because council did not authorize use of that space. They asked if they could operate out of the Shaheen Room, and we told them that they could based on availability for short-term for a short-term transition period until the lease agreement was brought to council. This decision was made by administration as it generates additional revenue for the facility. And that said, if the agreement did not go through and get approved by council, they would no longer be able to operate out of the facility as that in that capacity. So this was a risk that they were made aware of, and were accepting of the possibility that they may have to find an alternate location if this did not work out with council. Why is the town of Essex leasing out municipal facilities? We lease out facilities to offset expenses with those facilities by generating additional revenues. Each scenario for a lease agreement is unique, as some of the things we lease are for public services, such as concessions. Some are for nonprofit organizations, so service groups to the community, and some are for profit groups. or any sort of combination thereof that mutually make the both parties revenues. Leases account for 200 in 2023. Leases accounted for $248,216 out of the operating, which equates to approximately 1.43% of the tax rate. This means that if we eliminated all of our leases in town and we wanted to maintain the same level of service, we would need to increase taxes to the residents by 1.43% to offset those costs. The cost of the lease is too low was another question. The space in question, aside from the additional 2 rooms that are requested, one of which is a custodial room, is currently under lease agreement that was approved by previous councils. And the rate is a continuation of that rate with adjustments for inflation since their renewal in 2021. The lease rate per square foot is $4.20, which is up from $3.67 in their current and active. Why wasn't an RFP put out to the public? While lease agreements whereby the town is the lessor are not specifically identified in the town's current procurement bylaw, number 2129, the town follows the same general guidelines used for general acquisition. In section 27.02, the policy allows for the ability for administration to make a recommendation for a defined term in the absence of an existing contract renewal option. If it is in the town's best interest to do so. Given the dollar threshold, unique space layout, and operating restrictions required, it is believed a formal bid process would not likely produce significant pricing differences. 2 of those rooms are currently under lease for Chittle Sports Academy, and they are looking to expand their footprint to what they did in 2012 to 2018 with a couple additional rooms. The hallway area was also previously leased to Chittle Sports Academy from 2012 to 2018, and they were looking to re-expand that area. We have never, in any lease agreement throughout the town of Essex, we have never posted an RFP on space when an active leaseholder was looking to renew a lease. So this is a little bit unique in the sense that they were expanding their lease, and that's why it's brought to council, as that was a proposal from Chittle Sports Academy. Next question was, how is this going to generate revenues for the town of Essex? So for 1 year, the current proposal will generate $10,222 in additional revenues to assist in offsetting the operational budget for the Essex Center Sports Complex. If the 2-year extension is activated, this would at minimum bring an additional $20,445. So the important thing to keep in mind is that this is also not including CPI, which we would be calculating on a year-to-year basis. So it would be a minimum 3 years if those 2 years are extended for $30,668. Aside from the ice times that they also book in the facility. So there's also spin-off revenues that would come to the municipality through those ice time bookings. And the last major question that I received was the lease is not comparable to other local rates. And this is not comparing necessarily apples to apples. This lease would be for operating out of a hallway with a few storage rooms that have height restrictions in those storage rooms. The contour of the stands, as I showed in the video, have stepping down, and the storage rooms do have those height restrictions. So they're not large open spaces that you may be able to find in other locations. Chittle Sports Academy has also confirmed that they are willing to pay the capital cost of adding a washroom to the existing unused custodial room. They have capital investments in the space that the town will inherit once the lease is ended or it is not renewed. In terms of one of the questions that came up earlier was if the capacity has been calculated, and until we have defined lease agreement signed, that's the point when we would calculate the capacity in the hallway. As a point of clarity, there is no discount on lease space. The discounts are only applicable to community room rentals and ice time rentals, and the ice time rentals would be only during non-prime time and daytime rates, just not during prime time. And with that said, this proposal is being brought from administration and evaluated by council to see if it's something that they want. Operationally, it is possible by the town of Essex administration, but it's up to council for their execution if they wish to do so. That said, I'll turn it back to the mayor for any questions.
Have Director Malandrucolo, and then I'll double back to the councilors. We have Councilor Garing, Councilor Hammond, then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
I know that everyone saw the lease, but I thought just because it is a legal document, there might be some clarification that's required. So I'll talk about a couple things that are in here that addresses some of the questions that came up today. So the first thing is one of the paragraphs in the lease says that the lessee will not carry on any other business or activities other than the normal operations of the lessee without the consent of the lessor, such consent not to be arbitrarily or unreasonably withheld. That is standard terminology that you see in leases. That will allow things like Defined Fitness to partner with the lessor, but that is we have to grant permission for that, right? So we heard earlier that maybe in leases you don't see other companies coming in and using a cooking area. In leases, typically with consent, you can have that if that's something that's not unreasonable. Okay. Another part of the lease says that the lessee shall provide to the lessor and its agents and invitees access at any time to the premises. So that allows the town as lessor to require that the lessee allows whoever the town dictates to be able to have access to that area and to traverse through it. And it's also specifically says that the lessee shall provide throughway access to the premises by user groups designated by the lessor's director community service. Our director can designate certain groups that have to have the ability to access through that way. If they don't have the ability to do that, they're in breach of the lease. Okay. There's also a term in here that requires an insurance requirement that names the town as additional insured. It's a $2 million per occurrence insurance requirement. Finally, there's a lease on indemnification that requires the lessor to be saved harmless. So us as lessor, to be saved harmless from and against any and all claims, damages, and liability that's created by the lessee, their agents, contractors, employees, servants, licensees, or invitees. So the lessee is responsible for anybody who they invite onto the premises, creating a liability that the town will then be involved in. So if we are sued by somebody because of something that happens on the premises, using the indemnity clause in the agreement, we would countersue the tenant, the lessee, and we would theoretically receive back costs and expenses and any damages that we would incur because of that. A question came up about the difference between a subcontract and a subtenant. The subtenant would take on the liability of the tenant, with the tenant indemnifying the subtenant. So the subtenant would be in control of the premises. A subcontractor, the tenant is still in control of the premises and still assumes full liability. And that's what you have going on here. So you have a subcontractor coming in. We would have to approve that subcontractor, and that subcontractor, anything that subcontractor does, the tenant would be responsible for that and liable for that under law. Okay.
Sir Garen?
Make it through the mayor. I have a question for the 73 delegate, and I have a couple questions for Chittle. Can I ask can you share with council the additional space you're looking for? Where is it in proximity in that video? What is the use going to be for? Why is it needed?
The space we're looking for is minimum to that first beam from the dressing room door. You know, where our facility actually starts, our storage rooms and so on. We do have a storage room. That first vomitory, you look at the door through that. We have a storage room there, and we would like to go to that first beam at minimum to have that space to put in lockers there for some of our other material that's sort of piled up in different rooms. So that's the minimum we would like to have.
And now I would like to talk to Pat about a couple of things. In the video, Pat, the equipment that is being shown when you come in the door at first, it's all along the walls. Is that Chittle's equipment? Weights, and other things that were on the first sets of wall around the corner, the bikes, et cetera. Is that Chittle's equipment?
Worship, Counselor Garin, that is equipment that's acquired as part of the strategic partnership that I would say is shared. Various parts are owned by Chill Sports Academy and Define Fitness.
Well, you're familiar with the 73's needs. You were with the team before. Based on what the delegate from the 73 said with the space they were looking for, would you be open-minded to allowing them to have that space and operating from that space back?
Your Worship, Counselor Garin, yes, I believe I understand to the location that the 73s are looking for. Absolutely would love to cooperate with that. However, even though it's not a lot of space, that's a really important piece for us because the off-ice and sports-specific stuff is already small as it is. That would really hinder some critical services that would limit our class sizes to 4 kids or 4 participants as opposed to 6 to 8, which makes it not really affordable for some of the classes and programs that we would want to provide.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, if I may. We're hopeful that the 73s can actually use the space to do media things. It'll be a sharp space for players to train and warm up as part of their program enhancements for the club as well.
On to administration. Couple questions. If Chitta was to permit the 73s of space that they're looking for, they would pay a rent on that space. Would the town still bring in the exact same amount of money on the rent? If Chitta was to pull back and allow the 73s to rent that additional space, would between the two leases, would it still amount to the same amount of money to the town?
Through your Mayor Bondi, in theory, yes, if we're going by the existing square foot rate. But the square foot rate is part of council's approval. So pending that there were no changes to that, then yes.
And then the last thing I want to ask was the capacity. What is going to be, based on what is in the proposal, what is the capacity in that hallway based on the equipment that's in there plus the people that you can put in there? What would be the capacity?
Mayor Bondi, that's a number that we don't have right now. It's once we have the actual square footage approved by council is when we would calculate that. We didn't want to jump the gun and have different amendments that council may have wanted to see within that area. But that is a calculation once it would be approved that we would have, and we would have to post it in the facility as well.
Through the mayor, but we already talked to fire. We already got their input on it. So they should know that number. They should have told us that number.
Through your Mayor Bondi, that's a calculation that's based on the square footage that's given. So without knowing the approved square footage from council, that number has not been calculated at the time.
2 points, if I may. One regarding capacity, if I recall, the original lease in 2012, because this was a factor that we had to consider for teams and other large groups, I believe the capacity was around the 25 capacity limit. I'm not saying that's fact, but that's what I recall. In regards to consideration of the 73's proposal, which again, I wish I could help make that work with our space. I would like to ask that you consider the benefit of that additional space, whether it's 15 or 20 feet, whatever that number is, benefits one organization versus approving that for Chill Sports Academy benefits the entire user group of hundreds of community members versus one team. Thank you.
Yeah, through the mayor, to that final point, I believe that group, the space may not be used to bring in people from the community, but they still have players and teams and they bring in people every week. So I think the utilization of the space, it still has some worth and some value to it. It may not be attracting a paid person to come into the building to support the business, but it is still supporting the youth that's within their program.
For you, my question is to Mr. Morissette, regarding, this proposal. I'm assuming that the, fire marshal has done a complete report on the proposal and the usage of the hallway and everything, and has recommendations that, are required, yes?
Through your Mayor Bonnie, there was a site meeting between myself and fire and myself and the building inspectors, and everything was a go.
Because the reason I say that, I've been on some safety committees in my time, and when we're addressing halls, usually the consensus is that most all halls are to be free of any clutter and stuff like that. I'm really interested in doing a tour of this, especially with the equipment set up. Not that your tour didn't do it justice, but it really shows the confines of what the proponent says is less than ideal situations. Although the amenities surrounding his athletic club are obviously stellar and a very big positive, and of course I understand why you might want to be there. Other question is, who's overseeing the construction down there? I've seen some constructions done by other proponents, and to tell you the truth, I'm quite disgusted with some of them. So I'd like to make sure that this construction, if it goes through, is going to be overseen properly and without any due troubles. So who is overseeing the construction?
Through your Mayor Bonnie, so the lease agreement does speak to approved contractors with WSIB and insurance that are required, and permits must be taken out for those constructions. So when permits are taken out, our building team would be on site doing inspections upon that as well. Because it's a municipal property, we do want to see plans and designs before they actually get implemented. So our facilities team would be looking at those things and working with Chittle Sports Academy to make sure that it would be synchronous with what we have in the facility existing. So we would want to see the concrete walls. We want to see the steel doors to make everything so it's going to be uniform.
Couple more questions. We have a similar situation in Harrow where we have a fitness club renting space adjoined to the arena. They also rent another space, the old Scout Hall, to perform their fitness classes and stuff like that. I'm assuming that their rent is very much similar to the rent that is being paid at the Essex complex.
Through your Mayor Bondy. So I don't have the entire history on the existing gym, but I do know that there's a square foot rate that they would be paying as part of their lease agreement. So when that goes up for renewal, there are CPI increases, and they go through that process.
And is their renewal process similar, a 1 to 2 year renewal?
Through your Mayor Bondy, I don't have that specific answer, but I can search for that in the next couple minutes. I do know that each lease agreement is unique. So depending on if the group is new, then we tend to have lower renewal terms because we want to build and establish that trust with the groups before we say, oh, we'd be willing to do a 5-year agreement. So we do take that into consideration, and as well the proposals of the actual proponents. So when they come through, if they come in and say, hey, we're looking to invest, and I'm just throwing out a number, $100,000 in equipment to make sure that this is successful, but we want to have a 5-year term, then that might be something as part of their business plan that we would work into the lease agreement and again, present to council for their consideration.
One more question. Yeah, regarding equipment, obviously there's been an increase in equipment in the facility. I'm not sure if it's currently being used or not, but I'm just curious as to what sort of storage fees are we charging for them to store their equipment to a proposal that obviously is premature at the time.
Your Mayor Bondy. So as I stated, this was a decision that administration made. We are making revenues on their rentals from the Shaheen Room, but we also allow them, if there's no rentals in the Shaheen Room, we would just say, hey, you can leave your equipment there overnight or whatever it may be. because it's not interfering with other user groups. So if there was a user group that is utilizing the room, then we would make them remove it and put it in the hallway. This wasn't intended to be a long-term solution. This was a week or 2 weeks just to get to this council meeting to see the appetite of council and go from there. So currently there are no storage fees for the hallway per se, but they are still utilizing they're still covered under their insurance, and they are covered, they are paying rentals for the actual rooms that they're leasing right now.
Deputy Mayor Shepley.
You and through you, Madam Mayor. So I'm glad you guys explained the lease and why it wasn't put out to RFP. I'm wondering if that, I mean, I think it was maybe a bit of a mistake to not put an RFP out to our user groups at least. It just so they would have an opportunity to compete. Maybe we would have got more square footage. Maybe we wouldn't have. Maybe we would have got less. And I'm glad you explained who's paying for the, we explained who's paying for the upgrades, the washroom, the wall. It's not going to cost town payers anything. I'm wondering if you could go back to the original lease agreement, which was, I found out for 1,860 square feet. If you could tell me what that, I don't know if we're allowed to ask, if we could tell us what that original lease agreement amount was for and what the square footage was on that rate.
Always looking for that?
Yeah, they all kind of, it's, I mean, in fairness, I do recognize this is not going to be your typical gym where you're in working out. You're gonna have a hockey team next door, you have banging around, possibly walking through there. You don't have that in a regular gym. You're not working out in a hallway. It is a unique group that will be using this for sure, and I get that. And I'm wondering, just still waiting for that answer.
Mayor Shepley, was that $1,800 per month?
No, it's
Do you-
1,860 square feet. I'm
Okay,
wondering
okay, sorry.
what the lease rate was at that time.
Okay. Director?
Mayor Bonnie, it looks like it was $764 plus HST.
Got a calculator. 700
Per month. Correct.
700.
$764.
Okay, so the lease rates staying kind of in accordance. I mean, that was $2 and something a square foot back then. Let's see. I think that's all my questions I have right now.
Please.
So thank you through the chair. Some of my concerns are the access to the arena given to a for-profit organization when the taxpayers don't have access. So what do they have access to in the off times that a regular taxpayer wouldn't have access to at the arena? And how do they access it? So I know the walking track is only available from 8 to 4. Would they be able to use facilities like the walking track, the bathrooms, the change rooms, the Shaheen room when the arena is closed?
Your Mayor Bondi, so they are limited to the access area in which the hallway and their lease space, basically. Once the arena opens for the day, they would be able to use the other areas in the arena. Meeting rooms and ice time would have to be paid for, but they could certainly use the walking track. The reason right now their area is limited is because they don't have use of washroom space. So unless our facility is actually open, they wouldn't be able to open because they need access to washrooms. So this is the reason why the group is looking to invest in the custodial room to make washrooms out of there so that they can come and go during any hours, but they would be limited to the areas within their lease agreement unless the facility was open.
So that brings me to the washrooms. When the for-profit organization decides that they no longer want to lease this space, who's responsible for taking the washrooms out, or are we leaving the washrooms in? And who's responsible for taking the wall down that they are going to build out of concrete blocks?
Through you, Mayor Bonnie, the lease speaks to the lessee has to restore the facility into its original state. So if they were to leave and the town did not want that wall, or we did not want the washroom, upon exiting, they would be responsible to restore it to its original form.
And maybe this is a question for Mr. Chittle. Is there anywhere that the taxpayer who pays for the arena through their taxes, that we're giving you a substantial discount on lease rates? Is there a discount for the taxpayers of the municipality of Essex?
Worship and Councillor McGuire Blaze. I feel that our membership and program prices have been fair over years. We haven't thought or done any specific discounts for that specific reason. It is challenging at times, especially with youth, to make certain programs work, especially on ice. So that's part of why that reason is it's hard to make good revenue when you have limited client base for on ice or difficult times. Correct. Correct.
Thank you. Through the chair.
Does have a point on one of the comments you've made.
Okay.
But I want to point to the fact that the town is not allowed to provide a rent rate that's below fair market value. So if administration does the job to ensure that the rent rate is at fair market value, if the rent rate is not at fair market value, we could have an issue under the Municipal Act with the rent rate that we're providing. So if council thinks that the rent rate is below fair market value, they should vote this down. I think administration is telling you today that it's at fair market value. Council should proceed that way. If they feel differently, they need to vote this down because there's an issue with the Municipal Act.
Chair, that comes actually to my next point. How did we come up with $4.20 as a fair market value for rate when other businesses are paying $16.50 a square foot for their rates for the same use of the space? So I understand that it's a hallway, but it's the same use of the space regardless of hallway or large meeting room. So how did we come up with $4.20?
Through your Mayor Bondi. So over the course of Chittle Sports Academy's lease agreement, it became known that the rent was too high because the spacing was undesirable. So he had came back to administration and council approved the lease at a reduced amount because of that difficulty with the lease space. So from there, the lease rate has stayed basically the same and it's been changed for CPI increases throughout that time.
That seems to be an issue because we haven't done an updated research on what lease space goes for now. At the time in 2012, there was no other user group who was looking to do it. I don't know why we're allowing this to pass with 2012's lease space information. I think that we need to do our own research and we need to find out how much actual space goes for now. And we need to check into other municipalities. Are they leasing their hallways? Like, do we want to lease a hallway? That's like a fire access point. Is that something that we want to do? And if we are offering half price to this business, I feel like we need to offer half price to any other user group who wants to book time in the non-peak seasons. So why are we giving special treatment to one business and one user group?
I believe that our clerk has clarified that it's administration's opinion that it's not special treatment.
I understand that through the chair, I understand that that's what the clerk said. I'm giving you my opinion and Ms. Verbeek was allowed to give her opinion. And so I would appreciate if you'd let me speak my opinion.
Yes, I believe that this conversation is borderline on our code of conduct. So I'd just like to bring that up. Our CAO would like to say something.
The only thing I would caution is some of the comments saying the town is given a discount. That is not the case. It is maybe your opinion, but just be careful of that because the town is not given a discount. We do have other leases. Aero Arena, as Councillor Hammond mentioned, we have Essex Recreation Complex.
But we have an email from Director Morsuit that says you give a half price discounted rate to this user group.
through Mayor Bondi, for the ice rental, but in terms of lease space, it's not.
Thing is for ice rental, if we're allowing half price ice rental for one user group because it's an off-peak time, we should give that same discount to any other user group who's looking to book through the off-peak time. Why are we giving special privileges to one user group and not everybody? Why just this one?
So that clarifies, you're not talking the lease, you're talking about the rental, the ice rental. Director Morissette can confirm, but the high school, other than their sport teams, also their gym classes received a similar discount for use.
So through the chair. So if my nephew's hockey team wants to rent extra ice time to practice on in the off-peak time, would they be charged the full rate or would they be charged half rate?
So there are a number of rates that are approved by council for ice time. We have our daytime rates. We've got ball hockey rates for the high school. We've got non-prime rates, preferred rates, prime time rates. So there's a number of different rates. So anybody that's coming outside from the public would be paying the full price of that rate. The rates are different depending on the times that they are looking to book. So for instance, if somebody was looking to book similar times to what Chittle Sports Academy books, they'd be looking at approximately, and I'm throwing the number out there based on memory, $90 to $95 per hour. So it is half the price of what the prime time rate would be.
So anybody who wants to book so you sent us an email earlier today that said regular ice season, non-prime ice is $173.31. The current and proposed lease agreement has 50% reduction on non-prime ice rentals and 20% off community room rentals for the lessor. Is that not correct?
That is correct. That is what the lease agreements since 2012 have included as part of those lease agreements.
Through the chair, I don't think that it's fair that we're giving one business a leg up over every other business and user group. I think that this lease needs a really good look at, and I think it needs to be renewed. And I think because it's been since 2012 and we're looking to expand the footprint now, I think that now is a good time to put out an RFP and make it fair for everybody. So the other questions that I have, the BIA is asking about the storage space because they have town banners to store. Essex Village, Santa's Village is now needing storage space. We just had the food bank come through. They were looking for space as well. And if we're allowing, and you did say, Director Morissette, that they needed more power, but if we're allowing a business to add restrooms and add walls into a hallway, why couldn't the food bank add the power and bring the power that they needed? All of their coolers could have been up along the walls. They could have utilized the 5 storage rooms that you have there, and we wouldn't have needed to spend $400,000 on a building, and we could have just let that lease go out. So why couldn't we put the food bank there and allow them to make the necessary changes that we're allowing this business?
Mayor Bondi, the food bank notified us when we were doing this project that they needed 3,000 square feet minimum, and this would not meet that capacity.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to provide a little bit of more context on the RFP and what the procurement looks like for this agreement. Council can ultimately choose to issue an RFP for the subject area, but with any RFP, there is no guarantee of bids, and it could result in the space being ultimately unused or a loss of the proposed lease income presented. So tonight, what was brought forward was that there's multiple user groups interested in the property or in the footprint. And however, each of them wants their own piece and their own specifications. That makes it very difficult to post an RFP, right? Because now it's no longer for the entire footprint, it's for storage room A, storage room B, etc. And so if that's council's update, we can absolutely take that direction. But when we do post an RFP, we need to have a scope of work in it, right? And we need to have a footprint. And so every user group has different needs, different desires. When administration examined this, we looked at the best use of the total square footage. So just a little bit of background on the RFP process.
Member of council wishing to speak to the report have a chance to speak yet for the first time? Okay, Councilor Verbeek, you did not speak yet.
Madam Mayor, I spoke after one of the delegates, but to the report, thank you for the report. Clearly, again, Director Morissette, you did a good job and you presented it well, and I'll be supporting it. I don't like that we're pushing out false messaging to the community that we've got this great space we're undercharging for. This is a hallway, a piece of hallway without air conditioning, without decent airflow. I think we'd be really hard pressed to find another leasee, especially one that has been loyal, like paying rent since 2012, has never had an issue with the town, has never had an issue with the 73s, has operated very well with the town, with the 73s, and with other groups, has been paying their bill. Also, the location for this business is key. We know that. We know this. The business has been successful, ebbs and flows like all, different levels of engagement, but it's been successful since 2000 and open and running since 2012. At one point, there was some insinuation that you haven't been running all this time. You've had a lease, paid your rent, and been operating a business at different levels of, output. At this point, after all these years of experience, you want to expand again to do that off-ice. That off-ice programming was excellent, but I do understand post-COVID keeping all the training to ice time. But now you want to go back to the model where you had ice time and off-ice time training, and I think that's great. We as a council have been trying to make a serious effort to welcome new businesses and to help our current businesses sustain. I mean, we've been bending over backwards in the different town centers to help our businesses support. We have one that's been with us through thick and thin, and I know that Director Morissette mentioned some of the spin-off revenues that this small business has created. There's a lot more. There's others that you failed to mention, Director, and one of them I got to witness as working in the youth program for 30 years and seeing a lot of kids that went to this academy. There's kids. I know that he covers a large age group, and it was mentioned that it's high school, but it's not just that. It's not limited to that. It's all ages. And I've seen many kids go through there in groups at grade 6 and 7 where they were just ready to kind of tap out because they weren't able to keep up with the others. Instead, they got the knowledge and the confidence to continue in the hockey, and they stayed in our leagues for many more years and carried it into high school. So there was other spin-off revenue that you didn't mention. I have never heard that there was a problem with the 73s or town in his business operating. And I think, to me, it just shows that he's taking his years of experience. He's expanding his business footprint. He's ready to put it back into overdrive. Yeah, I get that you had to kind of slow things down. All of us do at different stages in life. And maybe you weren't, when you were just doing the on-ice operating. This is not a big desirable space. Yes, maybe I can see that the 73s could. My question to you was going to be, you've operated all this time without having it. Could you operate without that little bit of space? But I feel like this is getting really muddy because he wants to partner with a complementary service that's going to be able to give athletic one-on-one training to some of his clients. It's like there's just a lot of things muddying this up. We aren't giving him a big discount. We are discounting the ice time, but it's off prime time. And it's to young people that need ice time. I'd like to give it to them for free, the kids. So I'll be supporting it.
Point of clarification, then Councillor Mady has not spoke yet.
Earlier, sorry to put you in the hot seat, Director Morissette. When I asked you the square footage, you gave me the number. I did the math wrong. It actually was back in 2012, it worked out to $4.90 a square foot. And we're currently at $4.20. So it's just, since 2008, it hasn't gone up, or sorry, 2012, it's 12 years later, we're actually at quite a reduced rate compared to that. Thank you. Actually
Through you,
bigger.
Mayor Bonnie. So the reason for that was because it was initially given a per square foot cost, which was comparable to every other leased facility at the time. But they came back and they were not happy that they were paying the same rate for a hallway and storage area. So that's the reason why the rate was reduced by previous councils, because he did say that it was undesirable and deemed by those councils as undesirable.
Wanted to clear it up because I'd said $2 and I was way off once I did the math over here. Thank you.
Boquet,
Through you, Madam Mayor. First I want to say that, you know, all the way down in Colchester, we hear about the great job Chittle Sports Academy does. And Define Fitness is great for our community, and I would love to see the partnership. It'd be great if we could figure out how to work in with the 73s to meet their needs. But my biggest concern just came with Councilor McGuire's Blaze line of questioning and the recommendations from Director Marducolo. If in our lease, we are offering a discounted rate for the ice, does that come in against like what fair market value would be on the ice? Is that like a perk that we'd have to count against that?
So through the chair, I think we're a corporation and we're getting involved in a business opportunity right now. So I think what you have to do is you have to listen to what administration is telling you as the experts in dealing with corporate transactions as we're dealing with right now. And what Director Morris is telling you is that the lease space is undesirable. The amount of rent that he's proposed is fair market value for undesirable lease space, and that the rental amount for the rink is proportionate to the use that we would receive otherwise. So we have reduced use at that time, and there's a potential business opportunity there in offering the ice at that rate. Director Morissette is telling you that it makes sense financially. It's not a benefit that he's providing. It's actually a financial opportunity for the town. And that by working the two things together, you're receiving both a lease for undesirable property and you're receiving a lease of ice that would go unused. So I think as council, you need to consider those two things and determine whether or not you think that is a fair way of treating the rental opportunity.
oh, Counselor Allard,
I think it would be easier for us to digest if it wasn't just Kittle coming to us and saying, I want to lease and be a bigger spot. But bringing in the exercise business, it's like she's getting a rental for free because we've already paying for that area. So it's a little hard to choke down two businesses getting one rate.
everybody has spoke once to the report. So at this point, we've spoke once. I'm going to be seeking direction from council. We can pass the recommendations that the report be received and that we execute bylaw 2340 to operate within the Libro Rink hallway to be read a first, second, third time and passed today. We can do one reading, two readings. We can table it, give direction to administration. So at this point, I am only seeking direction from council. Councillor Hammond, you have a motion?
I'd like to move that we receive the proposal and have administration reassess our rental rate, since his renewal rate is based on a reduction. The increases, the annual increases aren't adding up like a regular increase would that was not reduced, is my point. If you're looking at percentage increases. I would move that we get more information from council before we come back with the final decision.
So your motion is to have administration,
And have Minnesota reassess, our pricing for our commercial spaces and storage areas and come back with an updated, listing.
okay, CAO Suite?
With that, based on our strat plan, our finance department, it's part of their task. They are looking at all our lease rates. So based on your recommendation, it wouldn't just be for Chittell Sports Academy. You're looking across municipality, which is more than what this item is. Right? We're already doing that. It's part of it. So I think for some direction, we little more clarification, right? Specific to this lease, how we want to handle this.
Director Malandrucolo?
I think it might be pertinent for council to know that this is a 1-year lease that could be extended for an additional 2 years at the option of the town. So if you chose to enter into the lease now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the rates can't be reconsidered and the lease not entered into for the next term or for an RFP to happen in a year instead of now.
Well, that's another problem that I have after 14 years and we're only getting a renewal for 1 and then a possibly renewal for 2 after that. That is another problem that I'm having, that that's such a short lease time when it's been in business for 14 years already.
What if we table it and have administration work with the 73s, work with Chittell, and come back? Like maybe we can sharpen pencils, maybe we can look at more comparables. Councilor McGuire, please.
What if there was an appetite that we allow Chittell to continue what he's doing with his sports academy, remove the defined fitness aspect and not approve that subcontract, and allow the 73s the space that they're asking for, and then offer to all user groups the discounted rate for the non-peak ice time?
Your Mayor Bondi, if that was the case, my recommendation would be to table this because if that's council's appetite, there'd be more research to do, right? Conversations have not occurred with the 73s. We saw it tonight. These user groups, we would have to do more research. Who would it affect and not affect? So I think there'd have to be additional work to accomplish that if that was council's appetite.
Through the mayor, we have an issue though, because Chittell's lease for his rooms are coming up. And so so now he's trying to expand that with what he wants to do. Putting it off, I think, is probably the right way to do it, because I think there's a few in here that haven't even walked down that hallway to see what's going on or spoke to any of the user groups to understand what their impact might be. But I believe it's the end of June. Is it up? When is the lease up on the 2 rooms that he's leasing right now, Jake?
Through Mayor Brownie, it's August.
What Councilor McGuire Blaze is suggesting is that everything stays status quo the way it was prior to tonight's meeting, and he has his 2 rooms until the end of August. And by then we determine, after doing our due diligence, where we want to go with it. That sounds like it makes more sense. I have a lot of issues with many of the things that are being said from some counselors, from some administration. This word undesirable space drives me crazy. I don't even know what an undesirable space is, because it doesn't have a bathroom and it doesn't have air. We've just heard from a user group, the 73s, saying it's desirable to them. We don't know if anyone else thinks it's desirable because no one else has ever thought that you can even rent that space out probably. So desirable could mean different things to different people. I mean, I used to rent a place that was a business that had no bathrooms in it, and it was legal. I had to go down to Tim Hortons to go to the bathroom. I mean, that's pretty undesirable, but I still rented it. So I have some issues with the whole thing. I want to work with Chittell. I want to work with the proposal. I want to work with the 73s, but we're talking about a hallway. I mean, when we lease spaces in the Maydell Center, we don't say you can have the hall and then everyone else has rooms, have to go through your business to get to their rooms. So you really got to go down to that rink. I think if you're a counselor, and talk to the 73s, talk to the Fun Fest committee, talk to the Chittle, and do your due diligence. And you'll see down there, you got to see it on a video doesn't really explain, the everyday needs of the other groups. The 73s, what they're asking for, they're at the end of the hall. They have their own doorway. They're going to come back in a little bit more. They're not going to impact anything that's in between there, except for on those game nights, because unfortunately, there's no other way of getting the product upstairs without having to utilize the hallway to get to the elevator. A unique situation. Fun Fest, other user groups that have just a storage rooms, I think could work around what Chittle is proposing. So I mean, if you were gonna go to a motion tonight that's to vote on it, it'd be a hard no from me. But if you're gonna give us an opportunity, I think to bring it back at a later date, then I'm okay. I'm all ears.
Let's look for a motion that we table it and have administration work with the user groups, Chittle Sports Academy, whatever that is, and come back to us when they're ready, knowing that it is time sensitive for Mr. Chittle. Like they're going to have to work it out and come back to us. Counselor McGuire, please.
Like to, if we do table it for a period of time, I'd like direction from administration on what they're going to do about renting out the Shaheen.
Mayor Bonnie, I think that's more of a direction from council to administration. Currently, right now, if the rooms are available, administration wouldn't see an issue with renting out the room. But if that's not council's desire, then they don't necessarily have the storage space for the bikes. So direction from council on how they would want to handle that is where we would have to go.
Want to suggest instead of a motion to table, because we'd have to have a motion on table prior to hearing from administration, we do a motion to postpone until administration is able to investigate further.
Counselor Garen.
Thanks. Yeah, I want to make that motion.
Okay.
I want to make the motion that we accept the proposal, that we defer the any action on it to a further date that's prior to the end of his existing lease, and that any equipment brought in from Define Fitness or Chittle that was in the hallway, we let it remain in there, not make them remove it until a decision is made.
Counselor Verbeek. Okay, we've talked about it a lot. You get to talk once to the motion if you want, but we've talked about it a lot. Counselor Hammond.
Just about back to the Shaheen room. If I want to rent it next Saturday, where are we?
Through you, Mayor Bonnie, I don't know the availability and schedules. They would have to go through our booking clerks, but you would certainly be able to book if it was available.
Support the motion that Councillor Garen made. I think it's important to implore everybody that hasn't been through the area to go through it. I mean, again, it is a confined space. It really is, and you should have a look at it. It's not a standard gym that you would walk into. So I think it's important that you look at it. It will help you to make. Doesn't mean you're going to agree to it. Doesn't mean you're not, but it will help you to make a better informed decision when you walk the space, because the video doesn't do the hallway justice for how wide or narrow it actually is. So I think visually seeing it makes a big difference. I walked through it and made a big difference for me. So I suggest you all do the same in the time while it's stable.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? I don't think there is any opposed. Motion is carried. Okay, no unfinished business. Oh, human resources, 10.2. 10.2, and we have Ms. Sieben here tonight. Our manager of human resources will take us through this report, and we have the consultant. Sorry, we're going to CAO Suite first.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. And thank you, Jane. I'll get to you 1 second. So council, at the May 15th, 2023 meeting. Mayor, I'm just going to hold on 1 second. So council, at the May 15th, 2023 meeting, council approved that all future council compensation reviews be included in the scope of work with the town's non-union salary review. And the reviews are to be conducted by a third-party consultant at least every 4 years. The purpose of these reviews is to ensure the compensation offered to elected officials remains competitive with neighboring and comparable size municipalities, and establish a consistent process of ongoing salary administration for elected officials. The town retained Gallagher and Associates to perform this review, and tonight Jane Mizanski is with us to present a report. Following Ms. Mizanski's report, Brandy Steven, the town's manager at Human Resources, will provide an update on her report found in your agenda tonight on the next steps. So at this point, I will turn it over to Ms. Mizanski. And again, thank you for sticking around. And I'm sure you've learned a lot about lease spaces in the town of Essex.
Very much so. Thank you very much. Am I sharing my screen for the few slides that I have, or are they going up on their own?
We can put it up if you just tell us to move ahead and by a slide.
Okay. All right, we'll start it right off there and go to the next slide. I just wanted to say thank you for the time on your agenda, and hopefully we can walk through this fairly quickly. So as the CAO suite had indicated, Gallagher was retained to assist the town with looking at the remuneration and expense policies and practices for the elected officials, members of council, and comparing it to other municipalities of similar size and scope and scope of responsibility. So whatever's on their agenda, so to speak. Considerations when we are doing a review, we take a look at the compensation, and we're trying to make sure as best as we can that the compensation is reflective of their roles and responsibilities, that it takes into consideration the time commitments that it imposes on members of council in terms of it's not a full-time job, it's not a part-time job, but it does have a fairly hefty time commitment attached to it. That the compensation is fair and reasonable relative to this other municipalities that have been identified as your comparator organizations. And then the last point really is that it's within a framework that is financially or fiscally sustainable, and it's reasonable given current practices across the sector in the province of Ontario. So the report that has been provided to you outlines the findings and the observations that we will present for consideration. Next slide. The 7 municipal comparators participated in this review. These are the same comparator organizations that we used for the non-union market review. We developed a questionnaire that was sent out to these municipalities asking for them to share information on base remuneration or a stipend. There's a different terminology that's used for it. Any per diems that are paid and under what circumstances those per diems would be paid or remunerated. Any allowable expenses such as car allowance, mileage allowance, any other cash allowances that are paid to elected officials. And then some questions around whether members have access to insured benefits, life insurance, any pension opportunities that they are allowed to enroll with under the town or the municipal umbrella. We tabulated all of the responses, and this is what is the results of which are being presented tonight. Next slide. So on the base pay, which is really the focus of the report, base remuneration typically recognizes across all of the municipalities that we surveyed. It recognizes the time that you are required to attend the council meetings, any other, if there's committees or subcommittees or any other ad hoc activities that are required, as well as any constituent work that you are attending to as a member of the council. Base remuneration across all roles that we have in the town. And again, this is 2023 information because that's when we conducted the review, was gathering the data late in 2023. So this has not been looked at with the lens of any increases that may be eligible in 2024. But based on the information that we did gather, all 3 of the roles are considered to be fairly close to the target pay policy of the 60th percentile, which is the pay policy that is being used for the town non-union employee group. And just for clarification, when we talk about the 60th percentile, it means that if we have all of the data points of those 7 organizations, or it could be 10 organizations or whatever, you put them in rank order. The top 40 or the top 4 are the upper end, and then all the other data points are below the 60, that middle point, not the middle point, the 60th point. So 60 points are below and 40 points are above that data point. So when we look at the, I'll use the mayor's P60 as an example. We have, and I can't see that because it's really, really tiny on my screen. But the 60th percentile point is 49,854. So there's a gap between what you're currently paying and what that market P60 statistic is. The gap is 6.1%. So the positive sign under that column that's labeled percent difference means that if it's a plus sign, you're currently below that mark. And if it's a negative sign or a bracket sign, then you are above that mark. So generally, we would say anything that's in plus or minus 5% of the data point that you're looking to achieve is deemed to be somewhat, reasonably competitive. So that's why I indicate that you're at or approaching your target pay policy with a little bit of variation across the 3 different roles. The next slide. In terms of the per diems, from those 7 comparator organizations, only 2 of them indicated that they do offer a per diem in addition to the base pay. The reasons for that per diem or when it is paid is limited to anything that is defined as a special meeting of council, or if a meeting has been called. In one instance, they indicate that if the meeting's been called in the daytime, knowing that the members of council are not full-time employed members of council, that this is then taking them away from their other employment opportunities. So they offer a per diem in that instance as well. 6 of the 7 comparator organizations do provide a per diem, however, for attending conferences or workshops. And the rationale generally around offering a per diem for conferences or workshops is that you are actually, you are away from either your home or your business or your employment for a period of time. So if you're going to the AMO conference, then you're away for several days. That means that you are not at your employment location if you are employed. So that's why often you will find municipalities that do offer a per diem for these kinds of situations. The per diem that the town offers when you are attending a conference is currently sitting at $201 for a full day, obviously in half if it's a half day, and there are defined hours. I believe it's a 4-hour cutoff for full to half. And the comparator average is 185 for those. So you're slightly ahead of that, or modestly ahead of the average for your 6 comparator organizations. We asked questions whether the municipality offers their members access to the insured benefits program that is available to staff. Insured benefits being that it covers off health, dental, vision care. And then OMERS is the pension plan. So it asked whether members have access to either one of these types of benefits. And more than half of the comparators do offer this provision. There is some instances where rather than just saying you're eligible to enroll in our health or dental plan, that if you do not choose to enroll in that, then potentially giving you a pay in lieu of what it would cost the town to enroll you in terms of premiums paid. Or for OMERS, it could be a similar kind of pay in lieu for that benefit. Right now, the town is not providing any health or retirement benefits or any pay in lieu of such benefits that are available to the staff. Next slide. So the review, basically, the recommendations that we are coming forward to council with is that you maintain your current remuneration to the 60th percentile of the comparator market. And again, this aligns to what has been presented for the non-union employee group. The 2023 base remuneration, we are suggesting that each the members, the mayor, deputy mayor, and the councillor roles all be adjusted to that target P60 rate. Obviously, with the gap being slightly different between the 3 different roles, the amount that would be incurred or the size of the increase is slightly different. Recommending an implementation date retroactive to January 2024. And then, as I had mentioned, these are 2023 rates. So adjusting the 2024 rates or the 2023 rates to whatever was approved for the non-union group as part of that budget process. So this is really your entire grid for the non-union group gets adjusted by whatever rate, whether it's aligned to CPI or to some other metric that has been identified by the municipality. And then giving some consideration to opening up the insured benefits plan, allowing you access to enroll in those plans, as well as access to the OMERS pension plan. And I believe that's the last slide. Okay.
Through the mayor, is there any questions for the consultant?
Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering if you could clarify. I'm looking at Tilsonburg as obviously it's one of the outliers as we're seem to be fairly in line with all our neighboring municipalities. Is Tilsonburg a single tier, two tier? Are they compared to us that way?
I believe these are all lower tier. Okay.
Questions for the consultant? Okay. So sorry. So as the consultant had said, there are some recommendations that we're going to be asking council to consider this evening. And just to give some background or history to council remuneration, last May in 2023, the town did conduct their own market survey for all council roles, and as such, there was an adjustment made to the 60th percentile of our neighboring municipalities. As CIO Sweet said, at that May meeting, council did approve a recommendation for the council remuneration to be reviewed in conjunction with our non-union review. Prior to 2023, so prior to last May, the previous increase would have been 2019, and that was as a result of the 1/3 tax exemption, which went into to law effectively January 1st, 2019. There is no other evidence that I could find on file that council remuneration had previously gone to a consultant for review. The town does not have a policy regarding council remuneration, which is one of the reasons that we are recommending that it be incorporated in the town's non-union salary administration policy, which then would ensure that council compensation is reviewed every 4 years and aligns annual increases granted to non-union employees. As the consultant reported, the town does not currently offer any extended health benefits or participation in retirement savings to council. One of our recommendations are, should council provide direction to administration to provide that as an option, then they could certainly advise us to do a little bit more information and come back with another report to council. In terms of the financial impact, so I have worked with Director Jarusevich, and based on the recommendations herein, the 2024 cost of adopting the proposed council remuneration at the P60 level for all comparators, as well as incorporating council into the non-union salary administration policy and aligning those annual increases granted to non-union, would be at a cost of $22,275 for 2024. The 2024 budget had no adjustment included for the impact of this review on salary expenses. Therefore, any additional cost would be funded through the salary stabilization reserve. Certainly, if there's any questions about that reserve, I would direct them to Director Jarusevich, who can certainly has a little bit more information. Again, to reiterate, that financial cost impact did not include any financial impact for extended benefits or OMERS. And should council wish to see what those costs would be, they could certainly give us direction for that.
Both to our consultant and to Ms. Steven, looking for direction, comments from council If there is any, we do have recommendations in front of us that the Human Resources report be received and that council approve the target pay policy and that the revised target pay policy be implemented with an effective date of January 1st, and that council approves a post-budget approval impact funded from the town's salary stabilization reserve, and that the elected official roles are incorporated in the town's non-salary administrative policy, and council provide direction to administration to investigate and provide a report on options for extended health care or health benefits and retirement saving options for members of council. If we want to discuss it, we can get it on the table, or I'll take direction from council. Councillor Hammond?
Mayor, I'm happy with the proposal and but would like to speak on it. I'm more than happy to accept any remuneration that this council gets. I'm proud to work with this council. I know them all to be very hardworking and dedicated to serving their constituents. As far as Mayor Bondi and Deputy Mayor, two of the hardest working politicians I've ever been known. I've known Mayor Bondi has been here for 14 years. I've known her more than 20. She is the hardest working, most dedicated person when it comes to anything. So the unfair criticism she's getting for her raise on county council, both her and Deputy Mayor Shepley, is unwarranted. And for me, it's money well spent. I'd just like to close with any counselor who doesn't feel they're deserving of raise for what they do, then you got to reconsider their commitment to their people that have voted them in. Thank you.
Want to move the report?
Move that we accept the report as written.
Looking for a seconder, and then we can further discussion. Councillor Verbeek? Any other comments? Deputy Mayor Shepley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So it's unfortunate that this comes back to us right now today. It's not something that's not earned by the counselors around this table. I think it's warranted. It's something we put into place last year. We put it in place so that, you know, over the years, there's maybe some political grandstanding by people to not take a raise or to take a raise. This removes that, and it allows it to be reviewed every 4 years when we do our negotiations. It takes that aspect out of it. It's unfortunate it's coming now, but my understanding is it's just at the end of, we just finished those negotiations. So that's why we're here today as opposed to later on. I want it to be clear that everybody understands 2 people around this table were the only 2 that received a large raise at county council, and that the rest of council sitting here shouldn't be painted with that same brush. They did not receive a 133% raise at county council. They received a raise last year that put them in line with the neighboring communities. It's important to note that they did not do anything wrong. This is what's owed. It's what's right. We voted on our union and non-union wages, and we try to keep everybody in the 60th percentile. I am an employer, and I believe I pay my employees a fair wage. And by doing so, they look after me. And I think this is the same consideration I put forth with all my voting when it comes to wages at the town of Essex or at the county. And it would be unfair of me to vote differently when I think of my fellow council members here. So I will support the motion because I think that keeping us in the 60th percentile with our comparators in the community is only the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the review, I really like that we reached out and got a third-party review. I do agree that there should be a policy in place for the remuneration for council. I'm going to be opposed to it only because when I took the position, I didn't run on it for any other means, but just to help my community. And I know that's going to sound cliche or whatever, but that is the truth. I feel what I'm being compensated right now is fair. It's not my full-time job. It is a part-time job. Sometimes it becomes full-time at times, but for the most part, it's part-time. So I'm not speaking on behalf of the other counselors, you know, to each your own, but in my case, I'm quite pleased at what I'm getting compensated for what I'm doing on behalf of my community. So I won't support it just for those reasons, but I do like the fact that we're looking at a policy.
Any other members of council? All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. 10, excuse me. Oh. Thank you, Jane, for attending. You can hang out with us if you wish, but I'm sure you have more exciting things to do.
Thank you very much.
Planning 10.3 subdivision development agreement for Phase 2 of Ducharme Lane. That Planning 2024-15 entitled subdivision development agreement for Phase 2 Ducharme Lane be received, and that bylaw 2338 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed on June 17th. And this, Deputy Mayor Shepley, sorry, I'm tickle. Supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? And that is the one we recently had the public meeting for. Planning 10.4, notice of intent to designate various properties within the town of Essex. And we have two patient women over there that have been waiting. So we will go to our manager, Rita Jabor, and if you could introduce who's with you, that'd be great. Thank you.
For you, Miss Mayor, I'm joined tonight by our Heritage Planning student, Cheyenne Mayu. Cheyenne's been with us for a couple months now, and she's really the power behind all the research of these properties. So I'm happy to recognize her in all her work tonight. Tonight, you are being asked to consider issuing a notice of designation for 14 properties, 11 of which are listed on the Essex Heritage Register, and 3 of which are not, but have been found to have enough historical and cultural heritage value that they warrant from protection. Council will recall from our April 29th special council meeting that we do have 22 listed properties on our heritage register. So this report doesn't constitute all the listed properties because we are doing exhaustive research to ensure that the properties are fully determined to meet Ontario criteria for designation. And of course, we don't want to overburden you with fun information tonight. So we have prepared a presentation to help you understand why we're recommending designation for these individual properties. So we are going to begin, if we can move to the next slide, with properties in Colchester and in McGregor. Next slide, beginning with 190 Bagot Street, which is Christchurch. The Christchurch building in Colchester was built in 1876. The congregation was founded in 1807 by Reverend Richard Pollard, who was the first ordained clergyman of the Church of England in Essex County, and who believed that all communities should have access to a church and a schoolhouse. The existing church is not the original. The original was built in 1820 on the site of the adjacent cemetery by a Mr. William McCormick, but was later lost to lake erosion. William McCormick was the son of Alexander McCormick, who was the first postmaster for Colchester. He was also a magistrate. He was an elected member of Parliament, and he was largely credited for the development of Colchester and later Pelee Island. The current church building also housed the local school until 1881, when the Colchester Schoolhouse, which is located just across the street, was built. Christchurch is being recommended tonight for its historical and its associative value. And if we can move on to the next slide, you'll see the 2 criteria that this particular property meets. The historical and the associative value originates from its direct association with William McCormick, Reverend Richard Pollard, who are instrumental to the development of Colchester, not only spiritually, but physically and socially. And because Christchurch is a significant spiritual institution for the community of Colchester. Christchurch is also being recommended for designation because of its contextual value. So specifically, it is historically and functionally linked to the Christchurch Cemetery, which is just south of this property, and the Colchester Schoolhouse, just on the other side, maintaining the historical character of this little important nook in Colchester. And it's also a well-known landmark in the Colchester community. Next slide, please. So moving on, our next property that is recommended for designation is 0 Sullivan Street, which is also referred to as the Christ Church Cemetery. And we have a few pictures up there for you. Some date back to the 1950s. The Christ Church Cemetery is located directly across from the Christ Church building. It's not currently listed on the Heritage Register, but it's being recommended for designation tonight due to its historical value. Burials at the cemetery began in the early 19th century with the earliest headstone dating back to 1808. It is the final resting place for several of the early settler families, including the Pardos, Boyles, Wrights, Levergoods, and the Brush families. Existing in the cemetery is a replica that was built in 1957 of the original Christ Church building. And that's what you see in the pictures depicted on the screen. The cemetery, if we can move on to the next slide, please. The cemetery is being recommended tonight for designation because it has historical and associative value. And specifically, this cemetery has the potential to yield very important information that contributes to our understanding of the Colchester community, specifically regarding these early settler relations and their family history. The cemetery is also connected to the Christ Church, which is a spiritual pillar for the community. And the property also has that contextual value because it is historically and functionally linked to its surroundings, which includes the Christ Church building and the Colchester Schoolhouse. Next slide, please. The third property that we are recommending for designation tonight in Colchester is 179 County Road 50, also known as the Snyder House. The Snyder House, like the cemetery, is not currently listed on our Heritage Register, but is being recommended for designation due to its design and its physical value and its historical and its associative value. The house was built in 1813. It might very well be one of the oldest homes in this municipality and even the county. It was built in the colonial loyalist style of architecture, which is now very rare to find. It was the home of John Snyder, who was a United Empire loyalist who arrived in the area in the 1790s following the American War of Revolution. Aside from its design value, the property has historical value because it has the potential to yield information that contributes to the understanding of the Colchester community. For example, the lands itself showcases the types of parcels that were given to loyalists by the king following the American War of Independence. The configuration of this lot is very similar to the John R. Park homestead, which the building on the John R. Park homestead was actually built in 1840, so well after this house. It also has associative value because it is connected to John Snyder, who helped develop a small farming settlement. It was one of the first settlers in the area along County Road 50. Next slide, please. Moving on to McGregor. Next slide, please. We are recommending designation for 9567 County Road 11, also known as St. Clement's Church. The St. Clement's Church in McGregor was built in 1903 in the French colonial revival architectural style. This is not the original church, which was built in 1879, where the parking lot presently is. This new church was built to accommodate a growing congregation. The original steeple, which you'll see in the older picture to the left, actually fell in 1946 following a tornado, but many of the original features of this church still exist today, including the bell, which was built for the original church. The church is being recommended for designation for its design value and its historical and associative value. Next slide, please. The church is a hub for the French Catholic community of McGregor and the surrounding area and is associated with the development and preservation of the French Catholic community of McGregor and the surrounding area. It is also a well-known landmark for the community of McGregor. Next slide, please. In these slides, we are going to move on to the properties in Essex Center that we are recommending for designation. Next slide. Beginning with 120 Talbot Street North, which is also known as Grace Baptist Church. The Grace Baptist Church was built in 1875 and was the first church in Essex to be dedicated. It served as the first high school in Essex Center in 1885 until the original high school was built. The church was rebuilt in 1907, 1908, following the 1907 explosion. Next slide, please. The property has historical value because it is a religious pillar for Essex Center, having direct connections with the early Methodist churches and helping in the development of a new religious community in Essex Center. It also has contextual value, as it is historically linked to its surroundings, having been moved from its original location due to the 1907 explosion, and it's also functionally linked to its surroundings because there is still an active congregation within the building. Next slide, please. 49 Talbot Street South is also known as Essex United Church. Essex United Church was built in 1908 to replace the original structure that was damaged during the 1907 Essex Railway explosion. It served as a religious pillar in Essex Center as both the Methodist Church until 1925 and the United Church until 2024. It has many defining features, including its size. In the actual church is an organ that was installed in 1927 by the Cassavant family of Quebec. This family is very well known for constructing and designing organs. They've designed organs even for Notre Dame in France. Next slide, please. Essex United Church is being recommended for designation tonight due to its historical and its associative value, as well as its contextual value. Next slide, please. So the next property within Essex Center is 54 Talbot Street South, which is known as the Dr. Robert B. Potts House. This house was built prior to 1885 in the Queen Anne Revival architectural style with inspiration from the Gothic Revival and Italianati style we don't come across too often in the town of Essex. Due to the material used to construct the building, it maintains the character of the neighborhood. So Talbot Street South in Essex was really developed for these types of architectural styles, which were referred to as more like cottages. Next slide, please. We are recommending designation tonight because of the design and the physical value, as well as the contextual value. The next property is 138 Albert Street, which is known as the Charles Roberts House. It was built sometime in 1876, 1877, and it is a very rare and good example of the Second Empire architectural style. It was built by George Wilson, who was a businessman who worked closely with Alexander Cameron, who helped develop Essex Center. It was also owned by Charles W. Roberts, who was the founder of C.W. Roberts and Sons Meat Market, which is now Shinkles. And it was the home of Myron C. Tiny Roberts, who was a local musician that was popular in the 1920s and the 1930s. Next slide, please. We're recommending designation tonight for its design, physical value, its historical associative value, as well as its contextual value. Thank you. The next property we are recommending for designation is actually located in Gesto off of County Road 12. It's known as the African Methodist Episcopal Cemetery or the New Canaan Cemetery, and it's one of the only relics we have left of the New Canaan settlement, which was once a thriving settlement here. The cemetery is not currently listed on our heritage register. The only, as I mentioned, it is the only remaining part of the New Canaan settlement. The cemetery itself is comprised of several unmarked burials with a few headstones placed on a cement pad. It is also the final resting place of Delos R. Davis, who was the first Underground Railroad freedom seeker to become a lawyer in Canada and the first Black man to achieve King's Counsel. Next slide, please. We are recommending designation of the AME Cemetery tonight because of its historical associative value and its contextual value. Moving on to Harrow, we'll begin with 103 King Street West, which is known as the John McIntyre's Harness Shop. This was built in 1896 by John McIntyre. He's known as one of the greatest harness makers in the area. And the building was built to house a store in his harness shop. And it was the community's public library from 1889 to 1904. Next slide, please. 103 is being recommended for designation tonight due to its historical associative value and its contextual value. Next slide, please. The next property is 4005 County Road 11, which is Central Grove African Methodist Episcopal Church. The church was established in 1888. It was the first African Methodist Episcopal church in the area. It is the site of a historically Black cemetery with burials that date back to the 1880s. The church itself was built in 1910. It has connections to Anthony Banks, who was the first Black county constable in Essex County. And it's also connected to Delos Ars Davis, who was buried at the AME Cemetery on County Road 12. Next slide, please. We are recommending designation for the church property and cemetery property for its historical associative value and its contextual value. Next slide, please. 11 King Street West is referred to as E.F. Darby's Drugstore. It was built in the 1880s or early 1890s. It housed the drugstore of E.F. Darby. E.F. Darby was actually the first mayor of the town of Harrow, having served from 1930 to 1935. He was also a druggist. E.F. Darby was instrumental in lobbying the provincial government to pass a statute to permit the incorporation of the town of Harrow in 1930. And on the screen, you'll see a historical photo of Harrow, downtown Harrow, probably sometime in the 60s or the 70s. And you can see the buildings that are currently there from the 60s and 70s to today. Next slide, please. We are recommending the designation of E.F. Darby's Drugstore for its historical, its associative value, as well as its contextual value. Next slide, please. Okay, 3 King Street West is known as John McAfee's General Store. And it's located right on the corner of King and McAfee. And to the left, you'll see a better picture of the store, probably from sometime in the 50s, as well as the downtown of Harrow. So it was built by John McAfee prior to 1883. It was owned by John McAfee. He himself was a civil engineer who surveyed the area and for the development of the railway that was later built by Hiram Walker. It housed the McAfee General Store and the post office until about 1888. It was sold to a C.I. Pistorius in 1888, and it was also sold to a J.H. Maydell in 1912. It served many uses throughout the years. Next slide, please. It is being recommended for designation tonight due to its historical and its associative value, as well as its contextual value. It is one of the oldest commercial buildings in downtown Harrow, and it helps maintain that character. Next slide, please. 44 King Street East is the former Harrow Municipal Building. It was built in 1939, and it was designed by J.C. Pennington, who was a very prominent Windsor architect. It was sponsored by J.H. Maydell, who was a local businessman. And we were informed, I think, by the Heritage Committee about this. So in 1889, the basement would serve as the OPP office. And in 1999, the building became the OPP headquarters of the town of Essex. It is being recommended for designation tonight due to its historical, its associative value, as well as its contextual value. Those are all 14 properties. In terms of next steps, if council elects to issue its notice of intention to designate, we will have to serve that notice on the property owner, on the Ontario Heritage Trust, and it will have to be published in the local papers. Within 30 days, anyone can petition council to withdraw that notice of intention to designate, or they may appeal the notice of intention to designate to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and the Ontario Land Tribunal will need to make a decision on whether the notice is warranted. If after the 30 days are over and we don't receive any appeals and there is no ask for a withdrawal, then council may elect to designate the properties under the Ontario Heritage Act, which will provide them with full protection from demolition, and have controlled alteration so that we may have these properties in perpetuity. Thank you.
I'm wondering if either you or Director Chadwick can just say, we have the extension on the Heritage Registry. If you could just say that, please, just so the members of public.
Thank you. Thank you. And through you, Ms. Mayor, thanks for the reminder. Bill 200 was passed a couple weeks ago in the House. And what that effectively does is it extends the period for which we have to designate listed properties. So whereas Bill 23 gave us until January 1st, 2025, we now have until January 1st, 2027. Of course, our project is continuing full steam, but it's nice to know that we have this extra time in case there are any properties that just need a little bit more investigation.
I should have done it at the beginning of the meeting, but I realized 49 Talbot is my neighbor and we currently use that property and in the past have had discussions about possibly purchasing that property. So I would like to declare a conflict on that particular property itself. And I'm wondering if we're going to discuss the rest individually or all at once. So if we could just remove that one out for myself.
Is it possible for us to pull one out? Director Malin-Jukala or? Number 6.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a look at the resolution.
So council could authorize the notice of intent to designate 1 through 14 minus 6 and then 6. Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah, even if we break it into 3 pieces, or sorry, it would have to be another, we'd have a mover and a seconder of the first one with that removed and then have a mover and a seconder for another one.
Okay. So looking for support from administration that council authorize the notice of intention to designate for the property at 49 Talbot Street, the Essex United Church. Let's just do that one. Needing a mover and a seconder if there's desire from council to designate that. Moved by Councillor Hammond, seconded by Councillor Mady. Questions just on this one? Councillor McGuire, please.
Them. When we notify the owner of the building, do we send a letter and then do we follow up with a phone call? Just because some of the residents might just get the letter and be like, oh, and toss it aside. Is there like 2 follow-ups? Can you explain that? Thanks.
So under the Ontario Heritage Act, we are only required to serve them with notice. We can follow up with a phone call if we know their phone number. So that is the challenging part.
We're just voting on right now the Essex United Church. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously with 1 in conflict. So the next motion is that we receive the report and that council authorize the notice of intention to designate the properties listed on our agenda 1 through 14 minus 6. Looking for a mover and a Councillor Guerin, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions on this? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
So I'm just curious. So we put them on the list. They're not aware that they're on the list until we let them know that that we're possibly going to designate it at this point, or were they consulted at all prior to tonight?
Those that are listed on our Heritage Register, the 11, they have been consulted with when we actually made the recommendation to list. The 3 that were not listed on the register, we have not consulted with them yet, but they will receive this notice of intention to designate.
Just wondering, like, I'm kind of with Councillor McGuire Blaze. I think sometimes a letter can go in the garbage very easily anymore, especially in today's date where emails and everything else. I'm wondering maybe a door knock as well as a phone call. I know it's a little extra work for staff, just mainly for the 3, especially that aren't aware they're even on this list, so that we could give them the ample opportunity to let us know whether they want to be there or not. Thank you.
Really happy to see the Snyder House made it on there. I think that was a good call. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for coming and thank you for all your work.
10.5 Community Services Special Event Notice, Essex Gas and Steam Engine Show, that the Community Services report be received and that council approve closing Walker from the 11th to Parkside Drive and from Concession Road 11 from Walker to the 11th concession between 8:45 a.m. and 10 a.m. on August 10th for the Gas and Steam Engine Parade. Looking for a mover and a seconder for this. Councilor Verbeek, Councilor McGuire Blaze, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Community Services Special Event Notice, Harrow Kinsman Big Wiggle Fest. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Community Services report be received and that council approve granting of a temporary noise exemption from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. on September 21st. And to accommodate the entertainment for the Harrow Kinsman Big Wiggle Fest, and that we approve them for special or significant event status. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Councilor Hammond, Councilor Mady, any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Special event notice, Essex Soapbox Derby, that Community Services report be received and then council approve a temporary noise bylaw exemption on Saturday, August 17th for the Soapbox Derby, and that council approve closing Talbot Street North between Victoria and Laird and Wilson and Talbot and Wilson for the Soapbox Derby. Needing a mover and a seconder, Councilor McGuire Blaze, Councilor Allard, Director Morissette.
Thank you, Mayor Bonnie. So just a quick shout out about this event. It is new to the downtown area in Essex Center this year. We did do this in Harrow last year, and this upcoming weekend, June 22nd, is going to be the Harrow Soapbox Derby. So if anybody's looking to build their own cars or participate, all of the rules are located on our website at essex.ca/soapbox, and check that out for more details.
Favor? And that is carried. Essex Center Street Fest, that Essex Community Services report be received and that council approve a temporary noise bylaw exemption from 10:30 to 5:30 on Saturday, July 13th and August 10th and Saturday, September 14th for the Essex Center Street Fest, and that council approve closing Talbot Street North between Victoria and Laird from 10:30 to 5:30 on those days. Needing a Councilor McGuire Blaze, Deputy Mayor Shepley. Questions? Director Morissette?
Thank you, Mayor Bonnie, and through you to council. I do, this is a new event as well this year. Now with the downtown streetscape being completed, we're seeing some events trickle in that they're looking to do. So I just wanted to bring this one to council's attention that operationally we can make it work, but this is 3 additional road closures for the summertime. Not that it's an issue on our end. I just want council to be aware that we do have a number of weekends, some back-to-back, where there are going to be road closures on Saturdays. Between the car show for the Fun Fest, the parade for the Fun Fest, Soapbox Derby, and then these 3 events. So they're all going to take place by the end of summer. And then we'll start to hit our Tiny Top Parade and Remembrance Day and Christmas stuff at that point. So just a heads up for council.
I'm just curious as to whether the merchants in Essex are aware of these multiple street closures.
Mayor Blaze?
Thank you through the chair. These street closures are actually, the businesses have formed a committee and they're the ones asking to close the streets. So it's coming directly from a really good chunk of the businesses downtown. I think they said they have 15 or 16 businesses who have agreed, and they are all within that section.
For Ward 1, I'm gonna let you know that I think it's anytime we shut the streets down, we bring people to town, whether you get business that day or not, they get a chance to see our town, see our businesses, and they do come back to visit. I can attest to that. So I find it, my business, we welcome it every time we have an event this size. Thank you.
All in favor? And that is carried. Capital Works and Asset Management, Essex Center Storm Sewers. Needing a mover and a seconder that Capital Works and Asset Management be received and that we do the study and that council appoint Stantec Consulting Limited to provide engineering services to design the storm sewers for phase 1 of the Rush catchment area improvements for a total cost of $427,000. Needing a mover and a seconder, and then Director Gerard will talk. Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councilor McGuire Blaze and Director Gerard.
Thank you, through the chair. So, essentially what's before you is the storm sewer, modeling report, that was completed for Essex Center. So council approved this, back in 2023. So what we're trying to do is communicate with council a little bit more on some of the studies that are occurring within Essex. So obviously the model was built itself, for the stormwater system in the Essex Ward 1 area. However, there is a final report that's generated that kind of shows us how our system acts within certain intensity storms. So you'll see in the report for you to digest, obviously not tonight, but in the future, the type of information that we receive when we restructure the systems. But if you have any questions related to the report, happy to answer them, tonight or even into the future. So please let me know.
All in favor? And that is carried. 1010, Capital Works and Asset Management, Essex Bridge Rehab Tender for 2024, that Capital Works and Asset Management report be received, and that council award the Essex Bridge Rehabilitation Tender for 1.6 million, and that council approve the additional funding of 36,000 above the approved 2023 capital budget for the fifth concession over Richmond Drain from the town's asset management reserve, and that council approved the additional funding of 17,000 above the approved 2023 capital budget for the third concession over Henderson Drain from the Canada Community Building Fund, and that council approved the additional funding of 5,600 from the town's asset management reserve for RC Spencer Associates to complete on-site inspection and contract administrative services, needing a mover and a seconder for that. Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Questions from council? Councillor McGuire, please.
Thanks through the chair. So I might be misreading this. So my question through the chair, I don't know if I said that, sorry, to Director Gerard. The motion is that council award Essex Bridge rehabilitation for 1.6 million, but I thought theirs was 1.5 million. Can you just, did I miss something when I was, is that 1.5 plus the, can you clarify, please? Thanks.
The chair. So I see what you're saying. So in the recommendation has a total amount of 1.643. And then you're saying the table.
So in the bridge tender document that we received on page 3, there was a table with all of the tenders that came in. There's a total tender price, and then there was 2 prices given, but neither one of them for Intrepid was 1.6. They were both 1.5. So just.
So looking at the table, so I believe what's happened here is that so in the table that shows the list of tenderers, it doesn't include provisional pricing. And it does, so anything that would be provisional isn't allowed to be included in the tender price when it's awarded. When you look at the second table within the financial impact section, that total tender price includes provisional items, contingency, and non-refundable AT. So it's the provisional items that are being included as part of the total cost.
Questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Infrastructure Services, Beach Road upgrades and maintenance. Looking for a mover and a seconder, that the report be received and that council direct administration to continue to provide minimal maintenance on owned and not assumed beach roads, including the current snow removal practice, and that council direct administration to upgrade owned and not assumed beach roads to the current Town of Essex development standard in accordance with our local improvement charges, priority lien status as amended upon request from benefiting property owners on these roads. Looking for a mover and a seconder, and then we can speak to this report. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Allard. And this was a result of a notice of motion a little while ago. Comments to the report? Councillor Mady?
You, Madam Mayor. Yeah, this was from a notice of motion. I don't believe it was my notice, but I fully supported that notice. I don't know if this actually grabbed the intent of what that notice of motion was. We were looking for a alternative path for people that live on these roads, to be able to upgrade their roads, inexpensively. There was some questions at that time about if they wanted to use a different type of aggregate or if they wanted to use the millings, what that would do with our maintenance contract on those roads. So I think what we were really looking for there is that if there was a way for them to use a different type of aggregate other than having to bring that road all the way up to the new municipal standard, which is very, very cost prohibitive.
Through the chair. Yeah, to be frank, I mean, there are no inexpensive ways to upgrade a road. When we look at it from an operational perspective, I know we had this discussion when we had the notice of motion come, but when we look at it from an operational perspective, the utilization of different materials or allowing different roads to use different materials based on what their judgment would be, is not a very good practice for us. I mean, each material is laid in a different way. It's purchased from different places. We would have to have, a consistent supply. So I know the use of millings was something that was brought up. We don't have a constant supply of millings. They're not sold necessarily to purchase on the market. So we would have to engage a contractor in some way, some form of purchasing those things. And we would have to do it in accordance with our procurement bylaw. So because they're not a vendor, it just complicates things. So the practice that we use now is if the road is gravel, we place gravel back, we maintain it to the minimum maintenance standards as identified in the report. And then if any upgrades or anything like that are want to be completed by the residents, then they would have to submit a petition in order to do that. Unfortunately, this is a subject, and as you can tell from the report, there's a significant amount of history in this, and that history is it has quite a bit of turmoil in it, as you can imagine. It's a very contentious subject matter for sure. So, I mean, I think this is the best approach. This is the approach that council had taken back in 2008 after significant consultation with those beach road homeowners, and I think this is the best approach. It's the same approach that we've been taking all along. If council wanted to do anything further, we would need direction from council to look at anything further.
Great explanation. So the material that we put down the roads right now, though, do we use the same quality gravel upgrading those roads as we do on say the concession 6 gravel road? Is it the same gravel, the same stone, or do we use different types of material?
Use varying material throughout the municipality, but generally we use our recycled material to its capacity. So if you're ever driving by North Malden, you see the large concrete pile that's there. We accept broken asphalt and concrete, and we crush that and recycle it to put it back into our roads. So generally we use that recycled material, and it's a significant cost savings to the municipality to do so.
It's been suggested, and there's been photographs concerning the stuff in that recycled material that we're using on. Is there any validity to these claims that it's mixed in with some materials that are detrimental to people's driving up and down them?
So the recycled, if I'm understanding the email that came in about steel within the gravel. So because we do crush that material, there is steel within it. The crushing process itself does remove the steel. There are instances where steel can pass through, or it's not picked up by the magnets in the crushing process, and it can be placed on the road. as a best practice, what we do is we actually run our own magnet. So we have a portable magnet that actually runs down the road when we grade the roads as well. And that's actually something that we do after we grade the road. So we'll run up and down the road with our magnet and pick up the steel pieces. I'm not sure from the pictures that I've seen if all of those steel pieces are from one road or if they're from multiple roads that we did all at once. But it is possible for us to have that material in the gravel. But we have a practice to remove it. And again, it comes at a very, very significant cost reduction to the municipality, very, very significant. So what we are doing as a better practice is we're actually going to place that magnet on the grader as we actually conduct maintenance on those roads as well, and then we'll come by and do it again. So we're gonna take one additional measure to try and get it to pick up all the steel.
See that we're taking measures to improve that. Thank you.
Any other council members? I guess this is something I think I want to keep on our radar if council permits, because I do understand the whole process with the local improvement charges and how we want beach road owners to bring their road up to our standards before we take them over. But we're allowing more development on our beach roads, and it's getting more dense, and beach road homeowners, pay the same amount of taxes as many other people in our municipality. So they're getting really more vocal about not so much the level of service. The level of service, winter control, I don't get a lot of complaints about winter control. Everybody thinks it's great. It's more so, when the roads are wet and mucky constantly, and they want to have other options like looking at millings or, maybe better gravel. So it is something we hold a really high level of service with many things we do. And I was hoping to see the barometer go just a little bit more, but it didn't at this time. But it's something maybe we talk about. I think previous councils, before I was on council, they picked a beach road once every, term, and they got that beach road done once a term. Maybe it's something we look at, through budget. It would have to be ward driven, once a term we do something like that. So I don't think the issue is gone by the wayside for myself, but I understand the position administration's coming from. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder, correct? Right? Anybody else? All in favor? And that is carried. Office of the CAO, summary of outstanding council reports, looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive our outstanding council reports. Everybody puts their hand up for this. Everybody wants to go home now. Councilor Rabeat, Councilor Garen, all in favor. Oh, anybody want to say anything? All in favor? And that is carried. Reports from our youth member, been hanging out here with us all night. More days left of school.
Exams start on Friday, so the latest you could go is Thursday if you have credit rescue.
All right, getting exciting. County Council update, we'll go to our deputy mayor.
Everybody know I do have an extensive report tonight. Figures. A lease agreement for this, our county council approved a lease agreement allowing Christopher Malott Farming Enterprises to continue leasing 813 acres around the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority. The rental rate increased from $276 to $425 per acre. After a competitive bidding process, with Malott's Enterprise being the highest bidder. The farming enterprise has been leasing the land since 2011. The new lease term is for 5 years from November 1st to October 31st, 2029, with the possibility of 3 one-year extensions. Sun Parlor Home did its annual survey, and I'm happy to report they had a 100% satisfaction from patients, families, and caregivers unanimously. We also received a report from Essex County about our Essex County assets of 1.2 billion. Our assets are generally in good condition, but there's a $27.3 million funding deficit that needs to be addressed to prevent deterioration. The council voted to support administration plan to address the shortfall in 2025 budget preparations. The county's assets include roads, stormwater networks, bridges, culverts, buildings, and properties of Sun Parlor Home, Essex County Library, Windsor EMS, and Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority, and other county departments. Now on to the good stuff. The rural households will be included in the green bin program. Rural and urban residents in Essex County will be part of the green bin program being launched in late 2025 by Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority. Council directed the authority to include rural households in an organic waste collection program. In a vote of 8-6, the 6 against would be Mayor Dennis Rogers, Deputy Mayor Kim DeYoung from Kingsville, Deputy Mayor Kirk Wallstead, and Councillor Kerr from Lakeshore, and Mayor Bondi and myself voted against this. Council approved the inclusion of rural residents, which will cost just over $2 million per year. At the same meeting, county also voted to incorporate the cost of the green bin program into the Essex County tax levy, recognizing it is countywide initiative. Essex County wage remuneration, not a popular one. In a similar approach to the exercise we implemented for the town of Essex, Essex County Council recently had a consultant assess county wages. Previously, the system, which dates back to 2008, was created by local laypersons. For this review, the county engaged an external consultant to conduct a thorough market study of council remuneration. This assessment involved comparing our county council wages with those of similar positions in other regions to ensure fairness and competitiveness. The review revealed that while the county's warden salary has been adjusted consistently over the years to stay on par with counterparts, the pay for deputy warden and counselors has remained relatively stagnant since 2008. This discrepancy necessitated a substantial percentage increase for those roles to align them with their current standards and comparable peers. Ensuring fair and equitable remuneration is primary objective of this revision. These updates not only bring the deputy warden and counselor pay up to date, but also ensure that Essex County continues to attract and retain qualified and dedicated individuals in these crucial positions. Lastly, as always, stay up to date with road construction. Please visit Essex County page to stay up to date. Thank you. That's my report.
For your comprehensive report, I do just want to add the irony with the organics is that any apartment unit over 6 units will not receive pickup. So the most dense places like apartments will not receive organics pickup right now. And just along with the wage increase, looking at wage increases for staff and for local politicians, it's not opinion-based anymore. It is data-based. And that's something that we need to communicate out to the public. Because myself and fellow county councilors, we were really host to a lot of negative comments over the last little bit, and I'm sure it's going to continue with people out there about our small percentage wage increase tonight. And the reason why you want to do routine maintenance is so what happened to county council never happens again. The file was neglected like other files in our town. And so when you neglect something, there's a big gap. And that is just another thing that this council and this county council is cleaning up, because there's been a lot of county council has had a lot of people that have sat in the same table for years, and wage reviews were not attended to like they should have been. So I'm proud to say that we are now paid what we should be paid, what our comparables are paid. And it's not an opinion anymore. It is data-based. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the county regular council meetings and agenda item 12 be received. Councillor Mady, Councillor McGuire Blaze, all in favor. Oh, you have a comment? Sure. Councillor Mady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree about the irony with the organics, and I've been racking my head. Is there some way that like we can have them justify the environmental impact of sending a truck down every road and not going to an apartment building? Can we ask for that information on how they came up with that being a good idea? Because I can't figure out how it's a good idea, and I would really like an explanation on how they think it is.
Chair, I did tune in and watch the meeting, and Mayor Dennis Rogers did pose that question to administration, which it could not be answered. They didn't have the data. At that point, County Council didn't make any motion to go any further, so it was approved without any further action. Although USWA did make a comment that they were going to investigate including multi-residential, I believe in that. That was part of discussion as well, just so you're aware.
Counselor Hammond.
Thank you through the chair. Maybe that is a motion that Counselor Mady wants to make to send a letter to County Council and USWA asking to justify the reason.
Really like the way we're going. I'm wondering if we could, because it's not minor and urgent, if we could go through the processes and really nail down exactly what we have to say. I think the intent is really good. Okay, is there, so we'll, Counselor Mady will work with the clerk's office. Okay. Is there anything else? All in favor? And that is carried. Correspondence to be received. That correspondence in agenda item 13.1 be received and were indicated to share such further information with the community using suitable methods of communication. Looking for a mover and a seconder. On that, Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Counselor Mady. I'm wondering if Director Drusevich, if you could explain to us 13.1.2.
Through the chair, I will try and keep this as short and sweet as I possibly can. In 2022, Bill 23 introduced some legislative changes that would impact our development charges that we levy to developers or anyone seeking a building permit. This included a mandatory phase-in of the DC. It also eliminated our ability to include certain costs in the calculation of our development charge. At that point, it meant that the impacts of Bill 23 would be greater than us moving forward with eliminating our certain development charge waivers that we have in effect. So we halted any action in eliminating those waivers given Bill 23's phase-ins. So just recently, in the last 2 weeks, Bill 185 received royal assent and it reversed some of these impacts, including the phase-in. It's been very welcome news to municipalities because it will no longer be a direct cost burden to municipalities. And we had planned to bring this forward in July, the development charge study, because legislatively the bylaw does expire in August. However, given the drastic impacts of 185, we're seeking a minor amendment to extend the bylaw to December 31st to allow us time to incorporate 185's recent legislative impacts. However, we are still going to aim for approval in the fall. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
Director Drusevich? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Correspondence to be received in support. ChildCAN, the Childhood Cancer Research Association, flag request for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, September. Needing a mover and a seconder that the request from ChildCAN, the Childhood Cancer Research Association, be flown at Town Hall September 6th in support of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Be received and supported. Councillor Verbeek, do you want to receive or receive and support? Receive and support. Is that okay, Councillor Allard? Okay. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Affordable Housing Task Force, looking for a mover and a seconder that the application from Doreen Lester be appointed to the Affordable Housing Task Force, be received and supported. And I believe we still have a couple vacancies as well. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions? All in favor? Yeah, received and supported. Committee meeting minutes, that the committee meeting minutes listed in agenda item 14, together with any recommendations to council, be received, approved, and adopted as circulated. We have Coan Park, Arts, Culture, Tourism, Essex Accessibility Advisory Committee, with 2 action items in their minutes. Looking for a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Mady. And my one question to Director Drusevich is the point by the Accessibility Advisory Committee that the committee recommend that council consider re-implementing the town CIP in all wards. Can that be a note going forward to budget? Like, I don't know how we, Director Drusevich?
Through the chair, the investigation of the CIPs is included in the current strategic plan. And so that will be coming forward for council's consideration, likely through a special council report as well as through budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Allard, you're on that committee? Okay, can you bring that feedback back to the committee, please? At the next meeting, can you send that to Councillor Allard? Okay, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Striking Committee, June 3rd, recommendation to council that we have our, oh, this is Affordable Housing Task Force. Could have just done it all at once. That the committee recommend that council appoint Fiona, Fraser, Fred, Richard, and Amanda as members of the Affordable Housing Task Force, and that Councillor Kim Verbeek and Councillor Rod Hammond be appointed as the council representatives. Needing a mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Verbeek. Any questions? All in favor? Oh, okay. March 2024 Capital Variance Report. Director Drusevich.
Through the chair, this capital variance report is the same report that council has seen quarterly throughout the past year. It is a little delayed as we underwent water billing, so that did push a little bit of our deadlines, but it's the same layout. I encourage council to review it. The process is that this list is formulated from the approved 2024 budget. It's then circulated to all managers and all directors for their input, and it also is vouched by the procurement function. All the statuses are updated accordingly. If there's delays on the project, they're likely noted in there. And in the status column, you would find where the project is, if it's on track, if it's delayed, if it came in budget, over budget. It's got a lot of information within that report. Any questions on the report? Myself or the directors would be happy to answer them.
For a mover and a seconder that the report be received. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Mady, any questions? All in favor? That's carried. I love those reports. Notice is a motion. Director Malin-Druclo.
Mayor Bondi, through you, the following notices of motion were presented at the June 3rd, 2024 regular council meeting and are being brought forward this evening for council consideration. The first one, moved by Mayor Bondi, that council direct administration to conduct a public satisfaction survey on Ontario Provincial Police Services being provided to the town of Essex and report the results back to council.
Well, Mayor Bondi be the mover or seconder. Councillor Mady, any comments? Councillor McGuire, please.
Thank you to the chair. I think this is a really good, I think sending a survey out is a really good idea. I'd like to see the survey not be, when you're compiling it, vague. I find that when we put surveys out there, it's like, it's so vague that we're not really getting a good capture. So maybe before the survey goes public, council can just take a quick look at it and maybe give some suggestions. Just because we're the ones who are getting the complaints, and I know that we convey them to you, but sometimes the survey doesn't always reflect what people are actually complaining about. So that would be my only suggestion.
Sweet.
To you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, we're doing that. We've already made the communication was anticipating this. We pulled out an old one. I think we have a meeting later this week with the mayor. And once we get that, we're doing other comparables. Other municipalities have done that. We'll send that out to council prior to going to the public.
Councillor Verbeek.
Thank the mayor for bringing this forward. No, I'm not bitter at all. I'm really glad that this is going through. I just remember how long and how hard I had to fight to get the last one. I'm really glad this is just an easy peasy no-brainer.
No other comments? I'm just a quick question. Will we see what our comparables are like for other policing is all in that, or are we just doing a satisfaction report on? Wondering if we will see a comparable to other municipalities in this, or just this, what our residents, is just a satisfaction report on that.
It's just kind of a satisfaction survey. And I think something, once we get that with the new police service board, it's something we can probably bring forward, especially now that we're with Lakeshore and Tecumseh.
Thank you, CO Sweet. Mayor Bondi.
Shepley, I think this is good to have a benchmark, and I also think it would be beneficial for council to see our last results and to see how we compare, and we can really get a good survey this time. We can change up the questions. And then maybe even every 2 years we do it to see what the public feedback is. You know, police service board meetings now are not every month here in the town of Essex. They're every other month. in the town of Tecumseh. And we don't have insurance right now, so we've only had one meeting. So I really feel like there's less meetings, less oversight. So this is going to be a good gauge to get the pulse of the public, and we can take it to the OPP and say, hey, look, this is what our public are saying. And if it's not favorable, the OPP get it. And if it's favorable, residents that complain to us about the OPP, we can say, hey, majority of our residents are satisfied. So I think I think we should do it more than once every term. Thank you.
All those in favor? And that carries.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you, the second notice of motion being brought forward for council's consideration this evening, and I understand that Councillor Hammond may be proposing a minor amendment to it. Moved by Councillor Hammond that council direct administration to review and prepare a council report outlining the feasibility of implementing the following traffic and parking changes. Number one, installing a no left turn sign on the north side of King Street to notify drivers heading northbound on McAfee that there's no left turns permitted from McAfee to King Street. Implementing a 2-hour parking limit along King Street from Victoria Street to Walnut Street and Queen Street from King Street to Center Street. Implementing a community safety zones on Center Street West from Queen Street to Erie Street North and Erie Street North from King Street to Sinisac Street West to serve St. Anthony Catholic School. And number four, implementing community safety zones on Arthur Street North from Munger Street East to King Street and Center Street East from Walnut Street North to Arthur Street North to serve Harrow Public School.
Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Allard. Councillor Hammond, you wish to speak to your motion?
To you, Chair. I'd like to remove number one, installing no left-hand turn, because that's subsequently been it's been put up since then. I would also like to add number four, implementing a safety zone from Marshall Street North from King Street straight through to Sinisac as I could, because Munger Street intersection there, that is where the drop off and pickup exits the public school at that intersection. I'd like to see that carried right through to Sinisac Street to the corner there, because that's where traffic needs to start slowing down for the school safe zone. Got that?
Want to make sure I got this right. So implementing community safety zones on Arthur Street North from Munger Street East to Sinisac Street and Center Street East from Walnut Street North to Arthur Street.
It won't be from Munger Street anymore.
Okay, sorry.
It'll be from Sinisac Street. to
From
King.
okay, that's where I was confused. From Sinisac Street to King Street. Perfect.
And then from Center Street to Walnut Street, North Street.
Any further comments? Councillor Allard's all in favor. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
I'm kind of interested. I'm looking forward to seeing the report, especially the 2-hour parking. I kind of intriguing to me that that's something maybe down the line after this report, we can maybe look at for some areas, maybe in Ward 1. Thank you.
Mayor, just a question, administration. Where he's asking for the community zones, they're around schools. Is there not school safety zones already implemented there? Don't they come with reduced speed limits?
Through the chair, no, there's no schools, there's no community safety zones established in Harrow at all. So when reviewing the bylaw, there are none.
Seeing none, all in favor. It's a really good motion, Councillor Hammond. Director Malandruco.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you. The following notice of motion is for presentment only and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the July 2, 2024 regular council meeting. Moved by Mayor Bondi that council direct administration to provide an update at the July 15, 2024 regular council meeting on the Colchester Hamlet secondary plan, including consultation efforts to date, plans for future public consultation, policy directions thus far, and overall goals of the secondary plan as a part of the town's new official plan project.
This is from members of council. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Reports and announcements from council members. I'm like, yep. Counselor Garen.
I just want to point out that re-point out that we have the soapbox derby in Harrow today. I'm looking forward to see a new entry, the Rotary Racers. Come on out, 9 o'clock start date, Saturday morning, streets of Harrow.
Out to our Parks and Rec that again, after spending a weekend out at the Colchester Harbor, everything, you guys do a fantastic job out there with the fish flies out and about like they're doing a great job trying to battle that never ending cycle. And there was one other thing I wanted to say and I can't think of it.
Okay, so Coan Park is doing entirely new format for their fundraising this year. They haven't had one for a couple of years. And so on the Friday, July 12th, there will be a cornhole tournament at the McGregor Columbian Club. Check out the Coan site, register, see if you can put in a couple of teams. It'll be a great time. There's food and drinks and entertainment. On the Saturday, it's the mixed slow pitch. They need some more teams. It's just a fun afternoon, co-ed teams. That's July 13th. Maybe we can put in a council team or something. And then on the Sunday, there's a community yard sale. So what they're doing different this year is all day Saturday during the tournament, and then Sunday, community yard sale vendor event. So for $25, you can get a nice vendor space out at the beautiful park and sell your wares, whether they're crafts or brand new items or yard sale items. So if you can support any of these 3 events, that'd be great.
Report, thanks. It's the Highland Games at at Heritage Village, and all of the mayors are going to be throwing their haggis again. So it should be a lot of fun. Bylaws, bylaw 2333 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 3rd regular council meeting be read a third and finally passed on June 17th. Needing a mover and a seconder. Councillor Mady, Councillor Hammond, any questions? All in favor? Bylaw 2341 being a bylaw to amend 1850 as amended, bylaw 2030 being and bylaw 2043 respecting development charges be read a first, second, third time and finally passed on June 17th. Needing mover and a seconder. Councillor Verbeek, Councillor McGuire Blaze, all in favor? That's carried. Bylaw 2342 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 17th, 2024 regular meeting of council be read a first, second, and provisionally adopted June 17th. Moved and seconded by Councillor Allard, Deputy Mayor Shepley, all in favor, and that's carried. And we need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Mady, all in